Jane Mutisia, welcome, so that you can give us opening remarks. Mpige makofi tafadhali. Good evening to you.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay. So my name is Jane.
Welcome,
like you've heard from
so that you can give us opening remarks.
And
Mpige makofi tafadhali.
to thank all of you for leaving your Valentine's dates and joining us for tonight. And today's theme is demystifying what HR is all about, right? So my question is, why exactly do we need to demystify HR? Can you hear me? What is it that you're demystifying? So my name is Jane. Anybody feels that we still need to demystify?
We can have a mic moving around.
No, well, I actually feel so. We need to demystify. Why do I feel so? Because every morning, at least every week, at least twice in a month, we wake up to something negative about HR in our favorite social media handles. True or true? You'll find something in your Twitter, you'll find something in your LinkedIn page, you'll find something in WhatsApp, people talking bad things about HR. HR did this, HR done that. How many of us have not seen that? How many of us have not seen that? Anybody who have not seen something bad about HR?
I remember Mark Masai.
Yeah, for sure. Mark Masai is the best example. And many others at any one time. But when something has not gone right, then you hear them saying the flip side of that. Where was HR? Do they have a HR in that company? Where is HRM? So what is that contradiction telling you? They don't understand us. It's the typical aspects of people looking at what is not working. But they forget that we actually provide very beautiful things for them in the organization. So every time you see those bad things, every time that you see them asking, where is HR? It's because the HR bar has been set very high. It means they actually know our relevance, they know our significance. You can never complain about the lack of what you don't know. You can't complain about there's no fish if you have never eaten fish. So every time you hear them talk about where was HR that is because they have set the bar for us this high. And that's where we need to go as HR, to meet them where they expect us to be. And it doesn't mean that we're not there. Because it's not always that they complain. True? It's not always. So every time we hear them complain, be happy. Of course, I'm not saying we own the mistakes, but be happy because remember there's a time that nobody will talk about us. And those in media, if you have anyone in media here, they will tell you bad publicity is equally good. It's better than no mention at all. And there's one time that nobody will talk about HR. We're back office, we're admin, and anyone thought HR could do any job. True or true? Yeah. So every time they hear them talking bad about HR, it's a time for you to clarify and demystify at your own level. You misunderstand as your people. We have very many stakeholders to represent. When this happens, this goes this way. We have very many hats that we wear. So don't take it the wrong way. Don't even defend the organization or yourself. Because it means they know you, they know what to give them, and the bar is here, and they have just felt maybe this particular time you drop the ball a bit, which is okay to get the feedback, or sometimes it's the nature of human beings to focus on what is not happening. And just to say how important we are to demystify HR, let me say that, allow me to quote a research that was done by the Bureau of Economics in the US. And they said one of the professions that is really growing and growing very fast at the rate of 7% per year, which is the highest that has ever been noted anywhere globally, and you can check online, is actually HR. More companies are going to be employing more and more HR as we go ahead. And guess what? The history can tell you that. Those of us who have worked for more than 10 years will tell you when we started working, we would actually report to finance, we would report to legal. A company was lucky to even have a HR manager. It was HR assistant, HR officer, or anybody else in the company would be given the work of the HR to do. We experienced that. But nowadays, almost every company has a HR person reporting to the CEO, to the MD, and when the HR is not there, we are actually postponing meetings because HR is not in today. Can we have this meeting on Thursday? Again, the evidence is overwhelming. Anybody who is ignoring HR, the lawsuits are talking to them. Even when they leave us and go to the labor lawyers, they go to the lawyers because sometimes the lawyer may not be a labor lawyer. they still have to come back. We have seen even very big corporates who have messed with what you call the HR framework, and they pay the price dearly. True? We have seen the lawsuits, we have seen very high turnovers, we have seen the great resignation, we have seen the quiet quitting, all sorts of things. And if you have CEOs in the room, or any of us who sit in the senior management team, they will tell you that the biggest trouble that CEOs are facing this particular time of their business is not financial capital. It is not what it was always. The biggest problem that people are facing right now is actually the human capital. How do we keep the employees happy? How do we keep them engaged? How do we manage to ensure that we don't lose all our employees to our competitors? How do we have the retention? And that is the pain that the CEOs are having. And guess who has the painkiller? The HR department. And therefore, as we demystify all these things, always ask yourself, among all the stakeholders that you're serving, the CEO, the employees, other shareholders, very many people that come to your desk because they need your desk. Which painkiller are you giving them? And how are they experiencing you? And talking about experiences, I keep hearing people saying HR is a new profession, HR is a new profession. We are not new. We aren't new. Since the beginning of work, I don't want to say when God created earth, but the first thing that people are given was job description, and that is HR. You do this, and these others do this. Since time immemorial, anybody who had a company and they had employees, all the functions of HR happened. There was recruitment, there was disciplinary, there was benefits, there was retention, there was welfare, there was employee relations, all those factors were there. Again, true or true?
True.
So HR cannot be new. What is new is how we are doing it. The how and the who. The person who did it previously was someone who wasn't trained, and let me thank Kuresha and the HRM Institute and my lecturers. Ogola, I can't see him, he was somewhere here, for making the profession, Ogola here, for making the profession very, very standardized, professional. We are not now just anybody can do HR. You have to be equipped. And that is part of the discussion that we have to do. Most people who talk bad about us is because they experienced the previous HR. Not the one that has been trained. Not the one that has been told what it means to wear different caps when talking to the CEO to understand his pain, when talking to the employee to understand their different pains, and when dealing with the different stakeholders. When you know that HR is not just about the people, but the people and the business. A HR who knows he has to always balance those two things. So we are not about the people, we are about the business and the people. We fully understand that the strategists cannot implement themselves, and the CEOs understand that too well. They know that. And just to back this up further, I know we have all seen the changes in titles, and all those titles try to validate our significance as HR professionals in the field. You have seen very many people saying Chief Happiness Officer, the Vibes Officer, People and Culture, Business Partnering. All those changes is because the CEO has a pain that he's trying to sort. The executives, the board, is trying to have the work environment very happy, very good for people to be able to work, and that can only come to your desk. On their own, they don't manage. And that is why we are not even knocking the bedroom doors again, the boardroom doors. Even the directors that are going to those boardroom doors, and those of us who sit in both here will tell you, directors who are good in human resource management skills are actually preferred in the board. Because once you're done with the finances and the legal, what else do we discuss? Why we didn't achieve what we had planned to achieve is not always because the strategies didn't work or they were bad. But if the people equation cannot balance, there's nothing much that we can do. Is that true or not? So, even as people talk and maybe make you not feel like you're adequate for this, just know our standards have been set very high, and that's why I'll say again, when we started, for me I started working in 2007, I reported to a finance person. My second job I spoke to a finance person. But right now, people are reporting to people who are HR managers and CEO and chief officers and even CEOs because of the significance of this particular role. But even as the legal frameworks, and the other systems prepare us for this, what are you doing as a professional to get yourself ready for this opportunity? And like I said, the work of HR is not new, it has always been there. What is different is the what and the who. The experience that people experience when they come to your desk. So ask yourself, if you're called Esther, what is the Esther HR experience? If your name is Jen like me, What is the experience that people experience? When you sit with the CEO, what perception do you give about the HR practitioners? So it's about the how, and we have to start thinking about the experience we give. I've done a video on the candidate experience. I want us to talk about the HR experience. And that's being very proactive on how we want to be experienced. Being very deliberate on how we want to be experienced, not just by the employees, but by the different people that we serve. We have very many people that we serve. And as I finish this, allow me to just say that all of us in this room, and even those who didn't make it, we have a duty to keep elevating this profession, a duty to keep taking this to the next level, a duty, I said our bar has been set here, a duty to even take it further. So how do we do this? Allow me to share 3 targets that I feel, if we do this, we'll push it at least a notch high. We're already high. Trust you me, I walk with my head high. I don't feel inferior. I don't think finance is more important than us. I don't think any other profession is bigger than us. We are all equal, we all contribute, and that's why all the professions, all those people are in the payroll, because we are all equal. And the 3 nuggets are, the first one, what is your professional voice? What is your professional voice as a HR person? And I talk about voices. Opinion, because we are the one who went to school. They wanted to hire a HR person because they had HR pains that they thought you'd come with enough medicine to give all of them. But you're passive. You're quiet. They're not feeling you. So don't choose that path. Are you passive-aggressive or aggressive? Are you bitter? Are you a pain to everybody who comes to your desk? What is your professional voice? When people come say they're coming to your office, do they have to say a prayer? Do they have to say a prayer because they're coming to see the moody HR? The HR who is ABCD. The HR who says it's an open door policy but it's a trap. So you have to be extremely deliberate on choosing your HR voice. And the HR voice I'm talking about is what we call the assertive HR voice, where even the CEO tells you, please fire Jane, I don't want to see her. You know how to manage your CEO with emotional intelligence and be able to say, yes, we are going to fire her, but this is the procedure, otherwise we get in trouble. You're able to even go sit down because maybe he's not in the mood to just exchange and do a whole opinion piece on why we can't just fire her without following the procedure, without knowing whether we have a valid offense or not valid offense. And that is your professional voice, an assertive HR who is heard in the room, who is not just in around, but is heard. And the former president said, these things are not given, they are taken. So if you sit in a room and you're waiting to be told, and HR, what do you have to say? Too bad, because they may not ask you. And if you're waiting to be asked, it also means you went into the meeting without an agenda. So please have a voice and let that voice be heard. Let that voice be heard. And the second thing that I would want to say is self-confidence, courageous. Are you believing in yourself as a person? And self-belief, self-capacity, all those things come from competence. How competent are you? If you don't believe in yourself, nobody will believe in you. If when you come to you for advice, start telling us, I think I actually think it's ABCD, or then you advise this, and then tomorrow you come and say, I've consulted my friends, it's supposed to be this way. If you have confidence, you'll even be able to say, allow me to just draft a proper response for you. I will send it before the end of the day, if you're not sure. But don't advise like you're not sure about what you're about to say, because that is on your confidence, especially if you give the wrong advice, especially where there's no room for you to make mistakes. And by that point, I would borrow it from Steve Covey, and it says, sharpen your axe. Don't be left out. I am so happy that you joined us tonight. And what got you the job that you have right now will not get you to the next level. It is just for that. Even for the next promotion. What got you to that job, even for the next promotion, it will not get you. Your boss will have to put an external advert if you still have the same skills that got you to the job that you have. You have to keep sharpening that axe. Going for those webinars, having a career plan on how you want to grow, and doing a gap analysis of what exactly should I know. And remember, everything doesn't come from school. Many things come from exposure. Exposing yourself to people who think different from you, different environments, and you can't do that by going to the office and home. And especially when you're working from home now, it's just you and your family members. So be very deliberate about how you sharpen your axe and what you intend to do to keep your axe very sharp. Again, as I finish, I want to quote this guy, what is his name? Jack Welch. He's very famous, may he rest in peace. He was a CEO for General Electric, I think from 1981 to around 2000. And he was known for how he turned around the company. And part of that was how firm he was on what he considered any successful business to be. And he said, according to him, the success of any business would be the cash flow, customer satisfaction, and someone finished for me the third one. I can't hear. And the human capital.
Human capital.
True. So he said that the three-legged stool: the cash flow, the customer, and the employees. So we own the third leg of that stool. Let's take care of it. We also take care of the cash flow, because if the employees are not happy, there's no cash flow. And now the last one. This is the last one that I'm about to say. And I want you to answer me, and please be very truthful. Who came here tonight because they didn't have a date? Someone answer me? Anybody? Who came tonight because they didn't have a Valentine's date? We all had dates? Okay, who left their dates to join them later because they had to come for this? Good. Thank you very much. That's exactly what I did. Because I value exposure. I value going out networking. Networking, meeting new people, learning new experiences. I'm sure when I sit down there, the kind of things that I'm going to take home with me will be very, very, very new for me. I'm very sure in my next speech I will quote someone who will speak here today. So if you don't have to miss an event, please do everything not to miss. That exposure, that interaction is part of what we live for. So thank you very much. God bless all of you, and God bless the HR professionals.
Mpige makofi. You know, Jen is a coach, is a trainer. She can easily start training us right now. Now, I want to tell you something, that whenever you are stressed and you raise up your hand and say HR power, whenever you lack solutions and you say HR power, you know, HR is about creative thinking, critical thinking, objective thinking. It means you have solutions to those problems. When you say HR power, it connotes a lot of meaning. I am beginning to enjoy the camaraderie. Camaraderie, the friendship. She was talking about the friendship that we are creating, the network powers that we create. Let us appreciate her again. She was modest. She was modest. She won an award as the most. Finish, please.
I was the HR. I was the award winner for the mentorship award of 2022.
Yes. Piga makofi. She won an award. That is very, very good. That is appreciating. I'm sure, Madam Edie, if I say appreciating excellence, you will feel very good. HR appreciating excellence. You will smile and say, wow, HR appreciating excellence. Now, our next item, we are going to listen to the CEO of Human Resource Management, Professional Examination Board CEO, Dr. Ogola, so that he can persuasively tell us why we should do exams. Why I was in another meeting and why should I be certified? Why should I do an exam? Mpigie makofi bwana Daktari Douglas. Makofi ya nguvu. Thank you. Thank you.
Good evening, everyone. Yeah, I have the honor to stand before you this evening to share with you how we can demystify HR, and also picking from the previous speaker who has just spoken. I want to say that it is important that we network, we sharpen our skills, so that we can take our HR profession to the next level. I'm very proud of her. She was my student at Kenya Methodist University about 10 years ago. and I think she is up to the profession. But that is not all. I think as HR practitioners, we need to think of how do we ensure that we remain relevant in our profession. See, HR has grown over the years from the time immemorial of personnel management. It evolved to human source. We're talking of talent management. We're also talking about managing human capital. We need to understand that as a profession, it is our role as HR practitioners to ensure that we manage people more effectively. Because HR is just about managing people. But this is one of the professions which has been so much abused over the years. As she has rightly put it, you could find anybody could be employed as a personnel manager or as a human resource officer and all that, maybe with their qualifications of Bachelor of Arts degree, BSc, or so long as you had certain qualifications, you could be placed to be in charge of human resources in the organization. But it does not mean that when you are given such a role of managing people, you are a professional. We need to distinguish what are the tenets of professionalism, particularly in the context of HR profession. What makes us to be proud as an HR professional? Because you could be managing people as a human resource manager or as a human resource director, but you're still managing from the perspective of personnel management. You're just concerned with implementing this. You recruit, you place people here, you fire them when they are not working. You are not concerned with nurturing them, giving them skills to grow in their profession, and even helping the organization to move to another level. HR has become a business partner. Because as a human resource manager, it is very critical for you to understand the role which the HR can play in shaping organizational goals. And that is why it is rightly put that a human resource manager must find a place in the boardroom. You are not just there in your role to manage people. The role of HR is widening so much, and let me also make it very clear that HR now is not just confined to only human resource managers or human resource practitioners. If you look at even the history of curriculum development, because at HRMP, that is one of our key mandates. We develop curriculum. But I want you to understand the perspective of curriculum development even from the diploma program in HR, the BCom program in HR, the MBA program in HR, and the PhD program in HR. I believe all of you here have gone through some of these training, either holding a diploma or a bachelor degree in human resource or MBA and all that. But in each and every professional or academic qualifications you hold, you will find human resource management as a core unit. Why? Because it is important that as you bring up someone who is supposed to be knowledgeable in business matters, that person must be well knowledgeable in human resource management practices. Because you'll be working with people, whether you are an accountant, as a finance manager, you work with people. Whether you are a marketing manager, you work with people in that department. Whether you are a procurement manager, you work with people. So it does not matter that you are specialized in a certain area, in a certain profession. At the end of it all, you'll still be working with people. Even as a CEO, you need to understand human resource management, because we also have some CEOs who have finance background. Maybe they did CPA and other courses and they became CEO in an organization, but then don't really understand anything at all about human resource management. So human resource management has carved its place in an organization, so that we need to really understand how to manage people, because you may be administrator in an organization, not necessarily a human resource practitioner, but still you need to understand how to manage people. How do we manage people? This is when you learn certain professional qualifications. For example, other than just having a general academic degree in human resource management or a diploma in human resource management, the way we have heard from so many universities, from KIM, from universities abroad, you are supposed to have a professional qualification in human resource management. And for that reason, the Institute of Human Resource Management of Kenya, in the year 2012, enacted through the council which was in place at that particular time, lobbied with the parliamentarians to enact Human Resource Management Professional Act. This act actually gave birth to professionalism in human resource management practices. One, it defined the clear role of HRM to regulate the profession, to ensure that those who are employed out there as practitioners are doing the right thing. They're complying with the requirements and managing people in the right manner. This act also gave birth to Human Resource Management Professional Examinations Board, that is HRMPEB, so that we can develop curriculum, we examine, and we certify HR professionals. So HRMPEB is a professional examinations body created by Act of Parliament. It has also been accredited by Kenya National Qualifications Authority. We have our CHRP accredited at level 7. It has also been categorized under State Department for Public Service as a state corporation. We are actually in the business of examinations. That is our core business, just like CASNEB, NEC, Legal Council of Education. So we developed a curriculum. We first came up with the curriculum in after 2012. That is Certified Human Resource Professional, CHRP. This curriculum was revised 2 years ago. It is now being implemented, courtesy of also HRM, which has really played a key role to spearhead all these developments. So what I want to tell you is that for you to remain relevant in your profession, it is important that you do CHRP, undertake CHRP. Certified Human Resource Professional is the first certification program in Africa. I'm proud to say that I'm one of the people who developed the curriculum which we phased out after the year 2012. The executive director then constituted a task force to come up with this curriculum. I can remember from the industry we had a lady by the name Irene Muinde. Irene Muinde was working with Total Kenya as the human resource manager. I think now she's in some other place, but we were also with academicians, people from industry. And so we came up with this curriculum, which we took to the stakeholders, the HR professionals, until finally it was accepted that this is the course we want. The concept was borrowed from Canada, this CHRP. But now we are taking it to another level. We have also developed a revised curriculum. We have repackaged the whole program. I want to actually emphasize on two things, which Madam Jane actually mentioned. That it is about the how and what, you see. Because how do we manage the human resources? You see, if you look at the principles of personnel management, the employee relations, the reward management, employee resourcing, and all that, these ones have been there. But we have repackaged them so that we need to manage people in a more professional manner. Because if you look at the vision of HRMPEB, which is also shared with HRM, it is ethical, people-centric, human resource professional. People-centric in the sense that as human resource practitioners, we need to focus on people, not work. Because when you are focusing on work, you'll just be interested in ensuring that the work is done. Work can even be done by machines and all that. But when you are people-centric, you are focusing on people. You are focusing on how that person should be well-motivated, well-nurtured, equipped with the right skills, working in the work environment, is well-rewarded, so that this person can be able to take the organization to another level. So it is important that we appreciate this vision. When we talk of people-centric HR professional, first you have to be ethical in your HR practices. You must uphold the tenets of this profession. You must be fair as a human resource manager, when you are hiring people, when doing placement, when giving advice to the CEO, when working with employees, you have to be ethical. So it is very important that we embrace ethics in human resource management practices. Let us do the right thing. I just want to encourage all of us, those who have not, let me see by show of hands. How many of us here are CHRP? Let me see. CHRP holders. Thank you. How many of us here are HR practitioners? HR practitioners in general, you are HR practitioners. Thank you. How many of us here are pursuing CHRP, not CHRP holders, are pursuing? They are in the system. I want to know. I've been a lecturer. How many of us are still in the system? Maybe as a second year, maybe are finishing this year. Yeah, as you can see, there's been a low uptake of CHRP in this country, and we're trying to encourage that you undertake this course so that you can take your HR to another level in your career. And I want to believe that particularly those who are still yet to register, well, let me just explain something very briefly. Yeah, when you register for CHRP, you'll be given exemptions because maybe you've already done higher diploma, you have a degree, a diploma, or even a PhD, but you'll be given some exemptions so that you finish very fast. Coming up with a private candidates policy. In fact, it's at advanced level. Before the end of this year, we'll be having students who are registering as private candidates. It means that we'll be recognizing the fact that you are already a practitioner who do not have to go to class to be taught. You can just read, apply your experience and everything, pass your examinations, just like any other professional examinations all over the world. People just register. We'll no longer force you to go to class to be taught. And I think that will make CHRP to be more accepted in this country. We're also working very closely with Ministry, State Department for Public Service, so that we have CHRP be included in the scheme of service. Come 1st July next year, the discussions or conversation is at advanced stage. We'll also have CHRP included as a requirement. And that would make sure that we have so many people pursuing CHRP, because CHRP is the cause for future HR professionals in this country. Thank you.
Let us appreciate. Thank you very much. Thank you very much, Daktari, for that very encouraging and informative. What do I want to say? Information that you have given us that we are going to use in making serious decisions. Now, I want everybody to say conversations with Esther. Conversations with Esther. You can look at this very beautiful banner here. Esther Katiba, Conversations with Esther. Ebu sema, Esther umeenda mbele, umefanya exam mapema. Esther Katiba. She's the force behind us being here. She's a powerful HR person. Then, Conversations with Esther. Conversations with Esther. Very good. Recently, there has been a lot of noise, misinterpretation of the NSSF changes. That is why we have invited an expert. Right? I'm right. So that you can demystify. Like me, I am not as good in issues of calculation. Please, Henry Waswa, kindly.
2012, the minimum wage was 12,000 Kenya shillings. So in 2013, when the act came in place, they used the minimum wage then to determine what is the amount that should be contributed as NSSF Tier 1. And that's why you have your Tier 1 based on minimum wage, and the minimum wage is being seen as 12,000, because you know very well today minimum wage is not 12,000. It's about 15,000 Kenya shillings. So you have Tier 1 contribution, which is based on minimum wage, which goes into NSSF. Now, because Kenyans will make noise. They'll be moving from 200 shillings to 6% of 12,000, which is 720. That increase is too much. So the government said, let us graduate that over the next 5 years. So year one is 6% of half minimum wage. 6% of half minimum wage. So it is 6% of half of 12,000, which is 6% of 6,000. That gives you 360 shillings per month as employee, and of course the employer matches with that very same contribution. That gives you tier 1 contributions. Yeah? And those tier 1 contributions is a must for you to send to NSSF. It's like the 200. You can't contribute anywhere else. You must send it to NSSF. Now, that is going to be increasing over the next 5 years by 1,000 every year. So we will have, the next year will be 7,000, so it's 6% of 7,000. The following year will be 6% of 8,000, until you get to, the 5th year will be 6% of, I think, about 9,000, about 8,000 Kenya shillings. Then from there, it will be 6% of minimum wage, the minimum wage prevailing in 2028. Yeah? So that is tier 1 contribution, and if there was nothing else happening, that tier 1 contribution was replacing 200 shillings. However, the government of Kenya said, even that tier 1, which is 360, increasing up to minimum wage, which is going to be maybe then 20,000 shillings, so 6% maybe 1,200. That is still not sufficient enough for you to retire on. It's not. Okay, you earn a salary today of 100,000 Kenya shillings. Ideally, you're supposed to be retiring on a pension of about 67,000 shillings to live well in retirement. But in this country today, people who retire, they are earning a pension of 20,000 if you're earning a salary of 100,000. So it's 20% replacement, which is very little. If you earn a salary of 100,000 and start getting a pension of 20, you'll die very quickly. That's why people die quickly in retirement in this country. It's because of stress. So what the government is saying, the tier 1 contribution is not sufficient. So we will again force you to increase the contribution, but what we call tier 2 contribution. Tier 2 contribution is based on what you call national average earnings. National average earnings is a computation of the average salaries across the country done by the Kenya National Bureau of Statistics in the economic survey. In 2012, the national average earnings was 36,000 Kenya shillings. Now, what the government is saying is tier 2 contributions will be ultimately 6% of 4 times national average earnings. 6% of 4 times national average earnings. Which means that ultimately in the 5th year, the tier 2 contribution will be 6% of 36,000 multiplied by 4. Now, I know HR with mathematics. Yes, I know HR with mathematics. But it's very simple. It's very simple. So I tell people that if we understand year 1, year 2 will take care of itself. Year 1 is 6% of half national average earnings. That's tier 2. 6% of half national average earnings. So half of national average earnings is 18,000 Kenya shillings. Yeah? It is 36 divided by 2 is 18. So 6% of 18 is 1,080. 1,080. Are we together? If you get lost, you can let me go slowly. Yeah? So 6% of 18,000 is 1,080. 1,080 is supposed to be tier 2 contributions. But the government says, we do not want you to kill you too much. So take tier 2 contributions, which is 1,080, remove 360, which was you have already paid to NSSF as tier 1. So the balance is what basically goes into tier 2 account. Which means you take 1,080, remove 360, you have a net of 720. So tier 1 is 360, tier 2 is how much? 720. Now, this is for anybody earning a salary above 18,000 Kenya shillings. Because anybody earning a salary below 18,000 shillings and above 6,000 shillings, or between 6 and 18,000 Kenya shillings, tier 2 contribution will be the exact amount. It will be 6% of 15,000, or 6% of 14,000, or 6% of 10,000. Are we together? Anybody earning a salary below 6,000 has no tier 2 contribution. So tier 2 contribution, if you have staff who earn salary between 6 to 18,000 shillings, it will be 6% of the exact amount they earn. But anybody earning a salary above 18,000, it will be 6% of 18. It's capped at 18,000 Kenya shillings for 1 year. Year 2 will be 6% of full national average earnings, which means it will be 6% of 36,000. That will be tier 2. So then you will remove what you have paid as tier 1 in second year. So let's just understand first year first of all. You have 6% of 6,000 shillings. All of us will pay 360 shillings. 360 shillings. Tier 1 contribution. End of this month, my brothers and sisters, you will have to deduct 360 and send to NSSF. If you send 200, the check will be brought back and you'll be penalized. So it has to be 360 for every employee. And then you will have to deduct 1,080. You will have to deduct 720, which is 1,080 minus 360 to get 720. So you will deduct 360 and then in addition deduct 720 and you send in as tier 1 360, tier 2 720. You will send to NSSF. However, the NSSF Act provides for what we call contracting out. What we call contracting out. That it's not a must for you to send your tier 2 contribution to NSSF. Now, of course, because of the challenges of NSSF has had, for this act to pass, we had to have this clause in, so that people don't feel they are being pushed in one scheme that has challenges of governance. And the act was provided for, if you have an existing scheme today, you have a private scheme, a private pension scheme registered with the Retirement Benefits Authority, then you are allowed to take your tier 2 contribution, 720, into your scheme. You don't have to send it to where? To NSSF. If you have a current running scheme. Are we together? Now, if you don't have a current running scheme, you have two options. To establish a scheme for your employees to receive tier 2 contributions. You actually have three options. To receive tier 2 contributions, or join an umbrella fund, like the one for Octagon. Yeah? Join an umbrella fund, where then, as a participating employer, then you send in your tier 2 contributions, or just dump them into NSSF. So you have how many? Three options if you don't have a pension scheme running today. But we are telling employers, we need to be responsible employers. We will not, it would be safe, because you know tier 2 contribution is not just 720. Ultimately, in 5th year, it is going to be 6% of 144,000 Kenya shillings. And that's going to be 7,840. So it's going to be a lot of money that you're going to be sending to NSSF. Yet, we have challenges with NSSF. The private sector pension schemes in this country are a little more stable and providing better benefits and better service to members. So you have three options if you don't have a pension scheme. You have two options if you have a pension scheme. Now, one of the things you need to understand is that what we are describing as pensionable earnings, which is the minimum wage for tier 1 contribution, national average earnings for tier 2 contribution, pensionable earnings is a total of your basic pay plus all allowances. So it's not like the normal pension schemes you have, some of you have, your pensionable pay is only basic pay. Going forward, pensionable pay is going to be basic plus allowances for purpose of tier 1 and tier 2 contributions. Yeah? Now, the question that we are getting more is about casual staff and contract staff. You have a running scheme today, and you have casual staff, you have contract staff. What do you do with their tier 2 contribution? What you need to do is, if you bring them into the scheme which you are running today, your scheme, for example, let's take an example, employee contribution is 5%, employer contribution is 10% of full salary today. If you bring them into the scheme, it means that you have to incur that cost. You have 1,000 casual workers, you have 200 permanent staff in a pension scheme. You bring 1,000 casual workers into the pension scheme, then you must pay 5% and 10% of their salaries into the scheme, and then of course net of tier 1 and tier 2 contribution. Your cost of employment will be boop, gone up. So then what you need to look at is say, the ones who are not necessarily permanent staff, you need to look for an umbrella scheme and go and go and get a participation in there and move your tier 2 contributions for casual and contract staff in an umbrella scheme elsewhere. Or secondly, register a scheme that is called Protected Rights Pension Scheme, which is only taking care of tier 2 contribution. The challenge is there will be the cost of managing that scheme because it will grow slowly. So we're recommending you have casual staff, you don't bring them into the main scheme. You do that, you cannot have 2 contributions in the main scheme. RBA will say it's discriminatory. You are taking a category of staff with the lower contributions and a category of staff with higher contributions. So it must be at the same level of contribution. So your cost of employment will go up. Bring them into umbrella fund for your contribution to be done. I'm just finishing. I'm just finishing. Now, what should you do? What is it that you need to do? End of this month, please, you must deduct and send to NSSF. Why? It's because there is a process. Today, RBA put in the newspaper an advert about employers applying with Form C1 for contracting out. But they did not tell you that there is one step behind. You need to go back. If you are running a scheme today, your scheme must go through a restructure of the trust deed to be able to send to RBA. RBA approves the trust deed, brings it back, then now you can use that compliant trust deed to apply from C1 to RBA for contracting out. So the first step is review your trust deed to be compliant. The second step is to apply using Form C1 for contracting out. That is if you have a scheme. If you don't have a scheme, the first thing you do is look for a scheme where your contributions can go to. Get a participating agreement, and that scheme must be compliant with NSSF Act from RBA. Then now you can have your form with the trust deed of that scheme. We apply for you a contracting out certificate from RBA. Now, which means the first 3 months, so to speak, of contributions, all of us will send to NSSF, Tier 1 and Tier 2. Yeah? And then thereafter, we'll send the contributions to the schemes that we have established or have joined at that particular time. Now, when the Act allows you that once you have set up your scheme, once it's contracted out, you can go with the certificate to NSSF and say, I want the contributions which I send in here that were supposed to have come in my scheme. And the Act says they should be able to pay you in 30 days, those contributions. So that's very, very, very important. I think that's it. I know there's too much mathematics there, but I'm sure we can explain. Yes.
Yes. From the look of things, we need a special sitting. Before you sit, I will allow like 3 questions, because any 2 questions? It looks like you have to organize a seminar for this.
Or they have understood.
Or they have understood alternatively. Moderate of choice. Hizo vitu zimekuwa kali. You have a question.
How can we join Octagon? For those of us who would like to join Octagon for that compliance.
It's very easy. We run, we do occupational pension schemes in some terms of administration. I can see some of my clients here. Yeah, we do administration for company schemes. So if you have a scheme with us, that is going to be sorted out. What we are doing now, we are reviewing all the trust deeds, sending them to RBA. RBA comes to us with the compliance certificate in terms of the scheme. Then we will apply for your C1. If you are running a company that has no pension scheme, you're only doing NSSF contributions, you need to join a pension scheme, and that's Octagon. Now, for you to join Octagon pension scheme, you simply need to get in touch with us. We'll be able to take you through in terms of how the scheme operates, and you sign what we call a deed of adherence to the umbrella scheme. The umbrella scheme is for all companies that don't have their own schemes, which is always a very good thing, because administering a scheme has its own challenges and compliance and issues of that. So it's always good to go into an umbrella fund, because then you're also getting into a place where it's warm. The fund is bigger, so you're getting better returns than starting a new scheme. RBS is trying to discourage more people starting new schemes. It's better to go to an umbrella scheme. So we will welcome you in an umbrella scheme and to be able to make your tier 2 contributions going forward. Thank you so much.
You can see why Conversations with Esther is bringing top thinkers to the room so that you can be able to understand concepts. Ebu sema, Conversations with Esther. Tough conversations with Esther. Thank you very much. We are going to have somebody from the Institute of Directors to talk for 5 minutes.
I have a question. I have a question for Mr. Fred. Just one quick one. With regards to the contributions, assuming the employer chooses to contribute towards the Tier 2 contributions to a registered pension scheme, there's the employee part. Assuming the employee doesn't want their contributions to go, because there's the deduction from the employee and there's the deduction of the employer. So as the employer, they've made a choice that they would want to channel Tier 2 to their registered scheme. Does the employee have the right to be able to choose where their deductions would go to? Either that NSSF, can they choose that even though the employer has chosen to go through their private scheme, I would want my contributions to go directly to NSSF?
No, the employee has no authority. From C1, as an employer, when we are applying for contracting out, you state the category of employees you want to contract out to a scheme and the ones you don't want to contract out to a scheme. So it's you decide that you want a casual staff to go to NSSF, permanent staff to go to private scheme. Or, you cannot, the employee cannot say, now me, I want this way. It is you who determines through Form C4. Through Form C1 in terms of who is supposed to be contracted out.
That includes their deductions?
That includes their deductions. Okay. Yes, that includes their deductions.
All right. It looks like you've got to arrange for some conversation for this.
We actually have a webinar. We are running a webinar on Thursday from 2:30 to 4 o'clock. Yeah, from 2:30 to 4 o'clock. If you go to our website, www.octagonafrica.com, you will register and come into the webinar. We'll be able to tell you everything about it. Yeah. My number is 0724. I know people will. I did this in 2014, and I had to run payroll for 2014 for February. So I'm going to run payroll for people in 2014, in 2023 for February. 0724 471 821. 0724 471 821. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Let us appreciate him, please, with a big clap. Thank you very much. We are going to have the next sponsor, that is Institute of Directors, say something within 5 minutes. Where are you? Institute of Directors. I assume it's you. Mpige makofi tafadhali. Under 5 minutes, starting now. Thank you.
5 minutes is a lot, but...
Good. You're a friend.
Good evening, all.
Good evening.
How are we? Very well. I think I'll stand here and speak. I will not confine myself to the podium. My name is James Sudi Nabangi. It's a great pleasure to be amongst, as you mentioned, great minds. People is something we are all passionate about. At the Institute of Directors, we deal with board members. It was good to hear Jane talking about the importance of intelligence in the boardroom and emotional intelligence in the boardroom, and basically allowing us to bring out this aspect of good governance at the people level. So the IID is a business members organization that has existed for over 17 years right now. Its main mandate has been to champion good governance across the board, both in the public and private sector. A number of you might have heard about it, members of the IID here. I can attest to Dr. Kangure, who has been one of our key resource persons. And we have our chairman here today who's going to be speaking as one of the guest speakers, Honorable Dr. Nelson Courier. So I'm here on behalf of the CEO, on behalf of the management of the Institute, just to get a feel of what it means to be in the heat. Because like Jen mentioned, it's always about the negative things being talked about HR. So where was HR, where was HR? I think we also have to ask ourselves, where were we individually before we talk about HR? At the board, it's all about the individual when we look at the board. It's never about collective, because groupthink can always be a thing that affects most organizations. But we also try to encourage board members to think for themselves. All right? So the IOD welcomes all of you. As a HR professional, your skills, your prowess is needed in the boardroom. And it's important to have seen the transition from the time when HR managers, or rather HR assistants, or rather just HR people, were meant only to be seen, yeah, and never to be heard. But now we have a voice, and it's important because as we deal with bottom lines at the boardroom, we need some soft skills there. I think the HR people bring that soft skill. Even when you talk about firing, someone in the HR should be able to say, why are we firing this person? For what reason? You know, that's where you come in to bring out that soft landing, what do you call it, bed for employees also. I know for some time we always say HR will always be strict to do this and that, but I think we're getting a more lenient HR. As you say now, the trainings, as Dr. Ogola says, we are training them to be a bit more lenient, more emotionally intelligent, to listen, to provide for an environment where there is a work-life balance. I think that has been a key thing, and we are losing out on that. Issues of mental health are becoming and rising every other day. Who's in charge of that? It falls back to HR. We have people who are still working in very dilapidated conditions. It's a governance role, that's true. The board has to see that, but who's on the ground? We know about the iceberg of ignorance. Have we heard about the iceberg of ignorance? Yeah? Where the board only understands 4% of what the organization is all about. But if HR is sitting at that level, or rather listening to what is happening at the board level, they're able to give insights so that there is proper oversight from the boardroom. So at the level of senior management, when you're getting at least 14%, and then the sweeper there has 100% of everything. You know where watchmen basically know everything about the organization? Who came in, who went out, you know, who's earning what salary. Somehow, I don't understand how watchmen know these things, but it looks like it's something to also see, because 100% of what happens in organizations is known by the lowest level in the organization. So how do we bridge that gap as human resource professionals? So as we partner with you in this, we also expect that we build that rapport in the boardroom with your help. We will talk about effective governance, but effective governance is not complete without people. Organizations have realized during COVID that we are not complete without the people. I've seen organizations that basically fired people or retrenched and laid down and cut their manpower in 2020, only to realize in 2021 they needed them back. So how do you deal with that? Because of course this guy now comes back with a lot of ego. You know, you fired me. You have to train someone else. You think about the cost of training someone else to get to that level. You don't want to go through that. You want this guy back, so you have to take them for coffee. You know, tell them how you're going to add one of their children to the cover, you know, so that they feel good about it. But at the end of the day, yes, let's see, how do we manage this beautiful and very strong resource for any organization? People are becoming so important day in, day out. We can look for the money in whatever way we can, because we have said, please, you're a marketing person, we do not care, you have to meet these targets, that's fine, the board will rule that out. But at the end of the day, this person has a family, this person has problems, this person has a lot of issues they're dealing with. Are we listening as HR professionals? Or are we just executing because the board has said, let's execute? So can we bring back that soft spot in the boardroom? And we're here as IOD to learn also as we also add value to the profession. Most of the board members also are now getting in as HR professionals. We've had a lot of accountants in boardrooms. We've had a lot of lawyers in boardrooms, because it's become a legal thing. Corporate governance is more legal. Now we're realizing it's not just about legal, it's about people. So can we at least embrace that? And I want to thank you all, and it's a pleasure being with you all. Asanteni sana. God bless. And you're welcome to network, yeah? So check us out, www.iodkenya.co.ke or .com. We took both. We realized we needed both for us to survive. All right, thank you.
At the Institute of Directors, they must be training very eloquent people. Mpige makofi. Mpige makofi ya nguvu. Fred, I've been told that you are going to be somewhere on Tuesday, but there's something that you've been told you clarify for 20 seconds.
Yes, all right. Yes, we are on Tuesday. I'll be on Atara Solutions. We'll be speaking about NSSF as well. But I need to clarify something which the CEO has mentioned. Is you have a scheme today. You are contributing 5% and 10%, and you have a salary of 100,000 Kenya shillings. So when you deduct 5%, it's 5,000 Kenya shillings. NSSF is saying you must pay 1,080. The question is, do you pay extra or do you net it off? Yeah. The best way of managing costs is to have the total cost of pension to be 5%. Then you remove tier 1, send to NSSF, remove tier 2, put in the scheme, remove tier 3, put in the scheme. Now, can you know where tier 3 came from? It's because your 5% of your salary is 5,000. If you have 100,000 Kenya shillings, 5% is 5,000. Tier 1 is 360, NSSF. Tier 2 is 720 in the scheme. Then the balance, which is about 3,920, goes where? Into the scheme as tier 3 contributions. Yeah? Are we clear? So you don't have to have an extra cost of employment.
Let us appreciate him, please. Let us appreciate him. Thank you very much. On Tuesday we meet so that we can dissect further this issue of NSSF. Jane, the Mentor of the Year 2022 panel discussion. Introduce your guests. Let us learn. Thank you very much. Appreciate Jane as she comes. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Richard. And we are really learning tonight. So let me call my guests to sit with me up here, starting with Dr. Ogola, Kuresha, Dr. Nelson, Francis, the HR Director Award winner last year, could also join us here. Yes, I'll sit at the far end. You can sit this side. Sorry. Yeah. So I'll have this powerful panel introduce themselves. Maybe you could pass for me the mic to start in Kuresha and then you go that way. Because they have very powerful profiles. I don't want to cut anything. So Kuresha, the floor is yours.
Thank you. Thank you, Coach Jen. directors are here, and he talked about governance. Regulation and building competence goes hand in hand. It's not about keeping tab on you and ensuring that you're paying for the regulation, but also ensuring that you are keeping up with all these skills. Like what just happened tonight is worth $1,000, but I'm glad for what we're getting for. In my career, I've worked both in the public sector and also in the developmental sector, and I'm very passionate about this profession. And I know what we are capable of doing, what we should be doing, how we should be doing it, and what is it that we need to get to that level. Thank you.
So we have 1 minute each, or should I say a second, to do the introduction. Gresha was the first one, so she got to steal some more minutes. So just 1 minute to just tell us about yourself, and then we get to the meat of the discussion.
Thank you very much, Jane. My name is Francis Kangure. I work for an organization called Research Triangle International, which is an international development organization that works with USAID. It's a contractor for USAID in the region. I'm also a postdoctoral researcher at Strathmore University, and I'm very happy this evening to be here. I have the advantage of sitting here and looking at all of you. Very, very beautiful participants today. Red, black, so very nice to be here. Thank you very much.
Let's clap for Francis.
A very good evening to you all. My name is Nelson Kuria. I'm a retiree. I retired in 2015. I serve in a number of boards. So I want to believe that rather than being retired, I'm refired. I chair a number of boards, amongst which CIC Group, where I also served as a group CEO for 14 years. I retired after 36 years in the financial services sector. So besides CIC, I chair a number of other boards in the educational sector, in the NGO sector. I'm also a church leader and a lay preacher. Thank you.
I hope we get refired also.
Dr. Ogola. Good evening once again. My name is Dr. Douglas Ogola. I'm an HR practitioner, a full member and practicing certificate holder of IHRM. My membership number is 0439. Also, a curriculum developer and a CEO of Human Resource Management Professional Examinations Board. I also want to say that I'm a researcher. I've been an academic for so many years. And I'm very passionate about HR. I was mentored into HR practice by William Gitobu. William Gitobu was the first executive director of IHRM when I met him in 1996, and encouraged me to be a member, associate member of IHRM, IPMK in 1996. So I'm very passionate about HR, and I want to see the HR profession moving to another level. Thank you.
I think the panel is very, very rich. You can hear me? Yeah, I'm just here with CEOs, directors, people who are serving boards and all that. And therefore I think, since we have this conversation of we want to get to the boards, and of course we're already in the boards, I'm very sure there are so many of us who are in the boards already. By show of hands, how many of us are serving in boards? Hata kama ni ya shule. How many of us? A board is a board, that's how you start. So many of us in the house already are serving in boards. Congratulations. So I will first start with that particular discussion, and I think I'll start with the chairman of the Institute of the Board of Directors, Dr. Nelson. Just to give us a preview of what has been his experience of HR people in the board, or what is it that we must do as HR to get to that space whereby we have very many of us and it's no longer news to say that I'm in the board? Because it looks like it's breaking news that anytime one of us gets into a board, when do we stop making it like breaking news? So Dr. Nelson?
Well, as you know, there are a number of ways to get into the board. And it also depends on the profile of the profession, the old boys clubs, as you know, from certain institutions, and being a member of IOD, getting into their data bank, that whenever private institutions, particularly companies, both local and multinational, when they want professional directors, they will go to the data bank of IOD, ISPAC, Institute of Certified Public Secretaries. There's no longer public, it's Institute of Certified Secretaries. So if you join such kind of networks, and now IHRIM, because of the prominence that the issue of people is taking in organizations, and particularly the focus that is there post-COVID, and given the many challenges that are there, talk about the quiet quitters, talk about managing the current generation of workers. It's very complex to understand them, particularly for some of us that are baby boomers. So we need younger and more proficient people in the boards who are properly capacitated in the area of HR. And believe you me, what I'm seeing currently is that the focus on HR issues at board level is such that any board that does not have a HR expert will not do any good service to their institution. And this is an opportunity that is coming for HR people to find their place in the boardroom and to play an equally critical role vis-a-vis that of finance. As a matter of fact, what we are seeing is just like the finance function evolved to be what it is today from the 1980s. We used to talk about accountants, finance people as bean counters. But they've gone through a tremendous evolution to what they are now, CFOs. And a CFO, like you know, you and I know, in any organization, is actually the strategic partner of the CEO. So what is going to happen is that the CHROs should actually be on the other side of the CEO. The CFO on this side, the CHRO on the other side, on equal footing, because that's where we are headed. And any organization that will not embrace this development will only have themselves to blame when they continue underperforming and finding it a nightmare to manage the human resource. The human resource is most complex of all others to manage, but it has been least positioned in terms of having the wherewithal to understand that complex resource. Thank you.
Thank you so much. So I hope you're having your takeaways and you'll share with us when you're finishing the conversations. Already, I just know for me, I have to join their institute. That's where they're getting the people from. So thank you very much, Dr. Nelson. And maybe to both Dr. Ogora and Kuresha, any of you can go first. What is the Institute of Human Resource Management and HRPEB doing as regulation bodies and the certifying body to position the HR professionals for this next level that all of us have been crying for?
Thank you, Jen. I mentioned earlier, if you look at what we stand for as Institute of Human Resource Management, we have 13 mandates. I hope you are not just joining just to tick a box, but you've gone through them. So one thing will never change. The circle of HR, you know, there are different roles in HR, whether you're talking about employee relations, compensations, training and development, employee wellness, all that is something we're trying to enhance through the continuous development learning. When I introduced myself, I mentioned, before you renew your membership, what have you done for yourself for that year that will be beneficial to this industry? So first thing, we're doing the right research to ensure that we are bringing you the right trainings, whether it's on a 1-day, 2-day, online, or the 4 days trainings we have. And we also have targeted trainings. We have conferences and congresses so that you can network and learn more. That's the first thing. Secondly, we have the opportunity, the minute we came to being through an act, now our responsibility is to champion for what Dr. has just mentioned in terms of how do we get into those boards? How, I won't say force their hands, but for everyone to see the importance of having a HR person in their respective boards. And we have lobbied, identified the right partners, sent the right letters to ensure that even as you apply, we're giving you that support from the Institute. Many of you have done that when you apply, come back and seek our support in terms of pushing and recommending you for the role, or even mentioning to the different organizations on the importance of having HR. Also, in terms of research, you will realize that when you take care of people's issues, have you asked yourselves why boards exist in the first place? What's their mandate? And Jen has mentioned the 3 aspects. There is one that you can never run away from. It's the human capital. You can have all the machines you want to have, but you can never run away from the human capital of managing all that. So whether we're talking about mental wellness, whether we are talking about emotional intelligence, the big thing with the data science, I know when the maths were going on here, we were all looking, we need to simplify our lives. And just to revisit what we've just heard about NSSF, you just need to remember 2 things as a takeaway, and the maths will flow. The first one is, now you know we have the minimum wage as Tier 1. You have to note it somewhere. Then we have the national average earning. So that usiende huko and you're just talking about the 6,000 and then the 18,000. You must understand where it came from. So, and that is what we are doing as an institute, to help you understand, to demystify that indeed, these are just people who want to keep us away from the job as we give our roles to others, that the minute we hear 6%, 12%, hii sio yangu ni ya finance. So we are bringing you those trainings, and I'm glad everyone is doing something at their own level. We're also planning something for our members within this week, because remember, it has to be this payroll. And we will continue unpacking NSSF until you understand. And when some things are put into perspective in numbers, only 22% of us have private pensions. What happens to 38%? So it's, statistically speaking, What does the market need? How quick are we? The question is, are you doing your research? Between Monday to today, and Dan is here, 5 of my members have reached out, working with different schemes on, we want to do this for the members. I want to deflect that back to you. As HR, especially if you are either a HR manager or a HR officer, have you already demystified for your employer? And for us to get into those boards, we need to be very proactive. And we can only get proactive. Do not shy away of picking your call, your phone, calling the institute, asking for direction. Even as we plan all these webinars, we will support you to just come up with one board paper to present. And that's why we're there. So whether we're doing research, whether we are researching on emerging issues and bringing new topics close, and holding sessions like this, whether it's 2 hours or 2 days, 5 days, you're not only networking, but enhancing your knowledge that indeed this is where I want to be if I want to move to the next position. And it's all in your hands. I know Dr. Ogola will speak. This profession is now at its peak. As members, as practitioners, where is our focus? Do we even understand what the institute is for? Do we understand what our role is? As we're talking about, CHRP is expensive, to be a member is expensive. Remember, the lawyers, the certified secretaries, the accountants have already filled your seats at the CHRP classes. What is it that they're finding in this profession that you still feel doing CHRP is very expensive? Expensive is relative. I am sorry, I may not be speaking for the majority, but when it comes to your career progression, the word expensive is relative. And I want you to go and sit down and unpack that amount you think it's expensive vis-a-vis the investment you're making and what it's going to mean for you later on in your career. Thank you.
Even before Dr. Ogola responds, I think that was so powerful, and you have answered so many questions that I see being asked every day in the WhatsApp or the online HR community, especially on the value of HR and joining HRM. So for those who want to join boards, you have been invited to a board, and then now you need to prove that for sure you belong to a regulated body, you are a professional, and for some reason that the HRM can't even print because you never saw the importance. So please, let's be members of IHRM, and there's so much. And if you sit home and wait for information to find us, it will never find us. So thank you very much, Esther, for convening us tonight. Dr. Ogola?
Yeah, just to emphasize briefly on the role of HRM PEP in shaping the HR profession in this country. We are mandated to develop curriculum, we conduct examinations, and certify HR professionals. And HR, as I mentioned earlier, is a profession which is evolving very fast. Even statistics shows that it is one of the most highly growing profession in the world. And I just want to challenge some of us here and out there who have not yet undertaken a CHRP to register for CHRP because that is the only way you can take your career to another level. You can grow with your CHRP and even become a resourceful person. Other than the fact that you add a professional qualification to your title, CHRP will mold you and make you the HR person who is respected in an organization, when I try to compare over the years, those who have gone through various academic programs, including higher diploma in human resource management and CHRP, have come to a conclusion that those who have done CHRP are operating at another level. And this is a fact. We are yet to conduct what we call a tracer studies on our CHRP, but I've interviewed and interacted with those who have done CHRP, Certified Human Resource Professionals, and you will find that they have learned more over and above than those who actually just went through the degree programs, the higher diplomas, and all that. So CHRP will make you to be a real HR professional, other than the fact that it will also enable you to be registered with HRM. I think we need to understand this. Some of us here or out there are actually confusing HRM and HRM-PEP. The relationship is just like the same with CASNEB and ISPAC. CASNEB, they examine in CPA, and ISPAC register you as an accountant. Once you have done your CHRP, you are offloaded to HRM to be a registered practitioner. So it is important that we encourage more people to join this profession. As it has been said, in the board, there's no board which can actually operate effectively without HR person, without CFO. And HR has already carved itself a niche in the boardroom. It is intentional that you have to work hard to be an HR person who will find a room in the boardroom. Some of us may be HR professionals, but we don't move up. How many HR people have also moved to the rank, even of CEO? Very few. You have to be deliberate, you have to be intentional to make a decision and move beyond also your HR profession by also undertaking extra professional qualifications. You find an HR person who is also having a CPA qualification, having MBA or MSc in HR. That will also take you to another level. So I want to encourage you to undertake your CHRP and keep on climbing the career ladder to that level where you can become a HR director and even a CEO in an organization. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Dr. Ogola. And what I'm taking from Dr. Ogola is, do you have a dream? As a HR person, do you have a dream, or are you satisfied the way you are? Are we happy serving as HR assistants for 10 years? Are you happy you have reached HR manager and that's your peak? Or do you have a dream even beyond the HR? And like said, Kuresha is a HR CEO. I'm just here with a bench of directors. And that would take me to the question to the award winner, HR Director of the Year last year. You're also a doctor, right? Dr. Francis. For him to just tell us the journey of his dream from probably a HR intern all the way to a HR director. How do we dream and how do we chase those dreams? He serves in boards, and I'm sure he'll be able to let us share enough from his story. The floor is yours.
Thank you very much. I think this discussion is very, very exciting. And what I'm taking away from my colleagues here is that one of the most important things that we can do as HR professionals, as CEOs, as human beings, is investing in ourselves. Investing in ourselves so that we can grow. And just to give you my simple story, today, as I said, I work with Research Triangle. I am the director of Institutional Performance Improvement Unit, which is more than HR. I support HR, ICT, procurement, and logistics, apart from training programs. And my journey is very long. I'll not be able to explain that in 5 minutes. But I started my career as a secretary. And many people were wondering, why should a man become a secretary? Those days when we had secretaries in the office, I started working with a Catholic organization as a volunteer, and they were dealing with so many programs. But during my time in the university, those days, we were not learning computers. So what I decided to do during one of the vacations from the university is to go through what we used to call computer operators course. So I knew how to use a computer. So one time in this organization, our secretary went on maternity leave. So she left. And the director was looking around for somebody who can be able to play that role. They said, Francis, I saw that you had done computer as one of the training. Can you be able to sit here as we wait for us so-and-so to come back? I said, yes. That's how I started my career. So I was typing minutes, answering phone calls and so on. To cut the long story short, I have also been investing in myself. All through my career, I have been to school, and I have a PhD in human resource management. And
you sure you don't want to clap?
Thank you very much. I also did your exam, Dr. Ogora. I'm a CHRPK. And when I was, I can see one of my tutors here. So I want to mention something that happened when I was at the College of Human Resource Management. When I was going through the program, I had a PhD, but nobody knew it, including Madam Margaret. So during the graduation, most of my tutors were really surprised. They were wondering why I had to go back to class. There is no paper, single paper, that goes into waste. My career was as a result of one simple computer operators training. I got into the workplace, and I'm there even today. Now, to be able to rise, this is what I have done. I am always proactive, and for you to succeed in your career, and also in my career, always look into the future. Start thinking about the challenges that will be there tomorrow. Not what we are facing today. What we have today, so many people have solutions. But what will happen tomorrow, you should be thinking about that, come up with solutions. And that is how you find yourself in the boards, because you have the solutions, you are thinking ahead, and that is one of the challenge of the boards. And James will tell you, they are always thinking about solutions to problems. As HR professionals, who is better placed to provide solutions to organizational problems? HR people. You are the one who is able to get the best accountant, the best board member, the best researcher, and so on and so forth. So when you are proactive, always thinking ahead, that is what will place you at the top of your organization. And don't take any opportunity to learn for granted. Take it, embrace it. That is where your success lies. So that's what I would like to say, Jane, and thank you very much.
Thank you very much for sharing your story. Thank you very much. Because of time, I know we'll get so much from this panel. You can hear me? Okay. So we're just going to get parting shot. I can start with Dr. Ogola, just coming this way, finish the closure. A parting shot to the HR fraternity that's watching you tonight. What would you like to tell them as they pursue their dreams? Not just to be HR professionals, but to be industry sort. Not just the board. There are bigger things out there that we can all go for. So, Dr. Ogola?
Yeah, I want to challenge all of us in this room to think outside the box. Let us not just focus on a narrow path of HR profession, but think broadly, widely, and where you want to become in the next 5-10 years. Thank you.
Yeah. For me, it's just to underscore the very important role of continuous learning They say good learners, good leaders are good learners. And because of the complexity of the environment, we also need to broaden the scope of our knowledge. Nowadays, as you go up, you are required to have a very broad view. You are required to have that bird's eye view, but a big picture. That big picture does not come through osmosis. You have to work at it. You have to continue learning like my brother here, and you must have a humble spirit. I can tell you that even at my age and even as I'm retired, recently I enrolled myself for a 6-month course for coaching. Because I have many people who come to me for mentorship. I mentor very many upcoming leaders. But I realize there are younger people who are coming to me, and what they actually need is coaching. And because I wanted to do it from a professional manner, I decided to go and do it, not because I want to get any money from coaching, but because I want to give back to society and those upcoming professionals and careerists, but do it professionally. Because the key word here is being professional. We don't need to give our people half-baked information or training. So keep learning and you will keep running. Thank you.
So for me, I think I'll talk about two things. One is, for us HR people, let us create a mindset that is bigger than HR, because we are business managers. Let's try as much as possible to understand the business and the business environment. That is the way we will be able to manage the entire life cycle of a human being in the organization. When I was looking at the title for this discussion, Demystifying HR Role, looks complex, but yet is very, very simple. Think about this way. Which organization doesn't have human beings? Whether you are talking about engineering, medical field, technology, wherever. Human beings are central. And therefore, HR role is very, very critical. We hold very sacred position in the organizations. So that is one area. What I've done myself, and this is to give you as an example, and this led to the HR award as a HR Director of the Year. In my organization, every year, there is request for proposals for new ideas that can help the business. I raised a proposal to conduct a research in Kenya on green jobs. Why green jobs? I work in the energy sector. And as you know, world over, people are talking about climate change. Okay? What is the place of HR in climate change? It's developing what we call green talents or green jobs. Because we are the ones who spoil the environment or build the environment. So this proposal was awarded, and that is what I've been doing for the past 1 year, to try to look at the skills availability for development and growth of green jobs to support climate change adaptation and mitigation. This is a very technical field. And as a HR person, you might be wondering, why did you decide to do this kind of research? So my message is, think outside the box. Understand the technical details of the organization, understand the environment. And the second point is this. For us to be able to change, and all of us, don't try to eliminate what is not working in your personal life, in the organization. Try to think about what you can create. That's how you develop a creative mind, because the mind will push you to coming up with a positive environment to give you new impetus and energy. Try to think about what is not working. It's challenging, is difficult, and it reduces the ability to see the possibilities. Okay? Think about what you can create, what is working for you, and follow that truth. A simple example. Many people talk about addiction for alcohol, for drugs, and so on. And many people, the moment they talk about it, they think that you reduce that by focusing on what is affecting you. If I'm drinking, I would think that if I'm taking 10 bottles today, I'll take 9 tomorrow, 8 the day after, 5 after 1 month, and that is my focus. Sometimes it doesn't work that way. Think about an alternative. Can I develop passion for swimming, for dancing, wherever it is, that with the time will replace what you are trying to fight over. So the creative mind works on looking at what is positive and what you are trying to create, not trying to eliminate what is not working. So thank you very much.
And you make me rephrase your statement. Maybe those of us who have read Kiyosaki, just to say what he's saying. And he says there are those who say, I can't afford, and how can I afford? So it's the same thing that Dr. Franz is saying. There's a problem, how can I solve it? Or it's difficult, it can be done. Thank you very much. Koresha?
Thank you. For me, to the HR professionals, who are about 17,000 registered with the Institute, my message is that we need to be strategic. Strategic in that we should not wait to be sent, but instead we need to act. In simple English, it's called being proactive. We need to be deliberate in everything we do. That gives us the competitive edge. Let's not leave our work to others. Remember, every other department is anchored under HR. We are the foundation of any organization. We are the ones who are recruiting, and we're in charge of the whole circle, which is from hire to retire. A lot of things happen. And my one issue, and I hope you will all learn from it, in September, immediately the new administration came to place. The murmurs about increment of NSSF have started. And now in February, it has become a reality. And we are all acting as if it's something new. This happened in 2014. It was murmured from September. We just need to see the trend. And by now we should have heard what is the business continuity, what are the opportunities, and how we're moving forward. In everything that Fred has just shared with us, we should have thought about it 6 months ago. And I won't shy away of telling you that repetitively. My third issue, I've talked about the strategic role. I have just challenged you on being proactive and having that competitive edge. The third one, which every panel member have said, learning is continuous. There is something new to learn every day. And when we ask you to learn, it's not a punishment, it's for your own self. And I hope one day, I always say, given the mic, everyone has a story to tell. We've started from somewhere, and we just need to keep going for our sake, especially if you want to remain employed. And if you want to employ us, then I'm sure the opportunities are there. At this point in time, HR is a gold mine. So where are you digging it from? Thank you.
Wow. Thank you very much, Koresha. And one thing that I'm taking away from Koresha is about the whole debate about NSSF. They already have a whole paper that they can give to members. And that's what she's calling proactively thinking. The CEO is going to come to you and ask you, I have heard about this. What is the story? and you also have no clue. Do you get what I mean? So that's exactly what she said. If it's in our docket, let's be proactive and think about that solution and think ahead of time. What could be the changes? Who do I talk to when I have to advise my CEO and any other person? Then I have the information to advise. Before we close, I just want to take no amount of time, but 3 questions, not 3, 4 questions for the panel. Just 4 questions. We have one there. You can help me with the mic.
One question that is truncated. No comment, just a question. Thank you.
I think my question is the HR. I've got so many questions, but I think I'll just dwell with one. You want to join, you want to be part of the boards, but I think you don't, I see HR, they don't monetize they don't monetize their operations. They don't put value of money in value of money on the bottom line when they are doing their discussion at the board. So you are seeing more of an expense. When you stand up to talk, oh no, the CFO knows you either want to recruit new people or you want to do something fresh. But I think you must play a role. You must understand the customer, the bottom line of the business. I think that's why also we have a big problem with the fraternity, and you must be held to accountable. If there are wrong recruitments that do wrong things in the company, I've never seen a HR being held accountable. I think the accountability at the profession has not come out very clearly in your profession. You have not seen people being held accountable. And something else is rushing for qualification and degrees and masters across the market. HR has pushed the whole market into getting papers, and we don't have people who have a passion for the country. The other day, we have got a board recruiting for a CEO. And I asked them, really? Doctorates and all that, really? Then how do you measure the passion for this person for the country? Does he have a passion for the country? Then the chairman looked at me and, no, but the papers are good. But does he have a passion for this country? So I think a HR professional can start incentivizing how do you become a leader? How do you become a leader in the country? This corruption we are seeing. HR, you are the ones who recruit. So I think there must be some accountability, and how do you ignite that passion for the country? How do you measure that passion instead of the qualifications at this level, even now when we are recruiting? Because the guys we are recruiting now all over the adverts in government, you have a role to play. Thank you.
That was a question or an addition to parting shot? And your name is?
My name is James Ngomeli. I've worked very closely with the HR. I was in charge of culture change at Kenya Power. So I'm very close with the HR profession, and we work very closely and advise with them on areas of culture. And I'm a salesman. So I believe HR sitting at where the product is sold is also a very big game changer for organizations. Thank you.
Second question, I guess the question is about passionometer and the monetization. Second question. Swear that you will ask a question. Tell me that. Good.
Yeah. Good evening. I just want to pose a question to Dr. Ogola in regards to CHRP, and I'm just wondering, you mentioned that you're looking at globalizing the CHRP certification. I would like to know so far what's the progress in that line, and what would be the equivalent of our current CHRP qualification in countries like the US, UK, Canada, where you're saying the curriculum has been borrowed heavily from the Canada curriculum. So particularly, where do we stand with the CHRP in Kenya in the global space? Thank you.
Thank you very much. The third question, burning question. Third burning question. Where is it? Ah, okay. Question. No parting shot.
Okay, I have a question about human resource practitioner protection, because you realize that there's a lot, you know, as she said, we are always on the other side. We are always told that HR is not doing what the board wants. They're always contradicting. They're always asking questions. And at the point of exit, they're exited most of the time, not because we're not performance, but because probably they didn't comply with the CEO, they didn't comply with the board. Where does the institute come in when it comes to HR professional protection?
The last question. Thank you very much. Last question, that is the fourth. You gave instructions, right? Yes. Fourth question and the last question.
Thank you. My name is Lily, HR in the development sector. I think my question is to Dr. Francis. I have read about having a personal board, and just listening to your progress, career development. My interest is what do you have one? I'm sure you do. And what criteria did you use to select your personal board to enable you or facilitate your growth process?
So the questions are personal board, standardization, the equivalency of, all right, good.
We start with right, going left. Let me, first of all, take on his question, which I understood clearly. We are seen as a cost. How do we demystify that? That all boils down to, first of all, how is your organization anchored? Do you want robots to work for you? And how you pitch your statement or your papers at the board adds a lot of value. And he rightly said, do you even understand the business? As everyone brings documents, position requests for you to recruit, have you looked at your workforce plan against the tasks they have? And is it necessary even for you to undertake that recruitment so that as you go to those boards, you can say, I've received all this, I have declined these 5 because of ABCD, and I would like you to approve these 3. And that gives you the leverage that you indeed understand what is your business model, who are your customers, and are you giving the right advice? So that's where you start from. So don't just push everything that is brought to you to the board, but understand and give them advice. Key. He talked about the papers. Again, I want to define 3 things. I always avoid using it, but for the purpose of this discussion, I will. Minority, marginalized, and a woman from pastoral communities. While it's good to have those papers, skills and knowledge are good, but they are worthless if you do not have the right attitude and the passion for the job. From where I sit, in my previous roles, I have taken the risks of recruiting people straight from universities. And I am so proud of what they've progressed to right now. But in those same interviews, I had people who had masters. So you need to be skilled. I am also a trained psychologist that I can sit with you in an interview while I go through all your papers. I will also can look out for, and I want everyone to do that, what is your psychological ownership before you walk into that interview? What's your interest in that specific organization? You can do the maths, 24 hours, 8 of it you spend, 12 you're sleeping, 12 you're awake. Out of that 12, 8 of it you are in the workplace. So where does your interest lie, and how do you pitch to demystify that we are not a cost, but we are pushing for this because it's good for the business, and this is how it is good for the business. Thank you for raising that, and we just need to continue amplifying that at the boardrooms. But how you pitch is the key. You mentioned, I didn't get your name, sorry, but you mentioned about member protection. As an institute, even as we do the legal and compliance drive, every year we reach out to different organizations, either through the print media or individualized letters, to bring out the issue of compliance and why they need to have that HR profession in their different organizations. We have had situations like what you've just described, people reaching out to us when they face issues, and we've written, I wish Edwin was in the room, we've written to those employers, and without going with the publicity of the media and all that, we've sought those issues out. So the profession we are, you know, the employee relations issues are progressive. Anything disciplinary is progressive. We have to weigh, first of all, what was your responsibility in this issue? What is the responsibility of the employer? And once we have the facts objectively, we reach out to the employers. Some, they come back and they sort with you, which have been very successful. Others, unfortunately, sometimes it's the HR who is on the other end. For some, we've gone all the way to even forming the ADR to mediate between the employer and the HR. There is no one time. If you have structures that work for you, that you can be victimized, but you need to document. Even as the CEO calls you, let me give you a secret, and they tell you to hire this person. Come back to your computer and say, dear sir or madam, as discussed, this is the position, this is how we interviewed, this is how we've done it, but you've recommended. They don't have a veto, but you're doing that for your own self. Because remember, later on when the auditors come, they will not question him or her, but you're the advisory and the policy holder. So you have to be very smart on how you do it. But members' protection, we do not follow with the members. The members come to us and we support them in the process. Thank you. Yes, after that. That is what we do. We have actually the disciplinary committee is a statutory committee under the Act. Out of all the committees we have, there are two which are statutory, the registration and the disciplinary. So if the disciplinary finds that you're not worthy of that certificate, they recommend to the registration committee to withdraw that, who bring it to the council for the ratification.
All right. Yes. Thank you very much. I think, and before I go to the personal board, I find this discussion by James to be quite interesting for HR people. And he mentioned something that is so important. He said that all the professions, HR is not specifically accountable to the organization for specific activities or deliverables. What I would say, and I think that is where James is coming from, HR is accountable for almost kind of people that you hire, you bring into the organization, and the way you manage their performance, and the way you manage their development. One thing, and this is also very, there is something we call contingent liability. Contingent liability is the number of cases that the organization loses in the labor court. If in every year you are losing 2 or 3 cases, how much money is that to the organization? The person who prevents this contingent liability to the organization are the people seated here today. A lot of money, and sometimes that is not put into consideration. And I think that is why Guiresha is saying the way we discuss our position in the organization is very, very important. Every other small thing that I do as a HR, I have to ask myself one question, and this is important. So what? You want people to go for team building, so what? You want to digitize HR processes, so what? You want a culture change program, so what? You want proper policy for 1 or 2, 3, it has a big implication. So I wanted to start from that point just to try to clarify that. About the personal board, I don't have one, but I know it's very, very important. What I value most is a mentor and a coach, and I have both, and I have several. And you do not have to maintain one mentor through and through. You can have a mentor today, and tomorrow you have a different mentor to support you, and this is the person you can go to if you have a critical question, if you want to make a big decision. Okay? A mentor is important. What about a coach? Is somebody who asks you questions. So Francis, what is the new thing? And I'll tell the mentor, no, I want to conduct some research. Why are you doing it? Okay, what are you planning to do in the next 5 years? This is a coach. He only asks you questions and then you answer. Through that, you clarify what you want to do, you make decisions. So get a coach. Really, really important. And I know the Institute has a very good coaching program, even mentorship program. And it is important for you to enroll, either to be coached, mentored, or to coach somebody. And the other indicator of growth, Lillian, and it's good you asked this question, is the ability for you to support somebody else. If you become a coach, if you become a mentor, you actually become better. Because you have to think through how you support another person. It's like going through the process of learning. It is deep, it is interesting, that is what has real value to a profession. But the idea of a personal board, I know a number of people with personal boards, is important, fantastic, and even one of you have a personal board, I think would like to hear that experience. Asante sana.
Just to talk briefly about globalization of CHRP, I think that is what was asked by one of our members. I want to say that here in Kenya, we are members of a very proud organizational umbrella, that is IHRM. And in Africa, Kenya is the only country which HRM as a profession is regulated by an act of parliament. We need to understand this. It means that we are so much ahead of so many countries in Africa. Go to South Africa, Nigeria, all these other countries, Uganda, the HR is still undertaking welfare role. CHRP was developed to enhance HR competency for the HR professionals. I'd mentioned that it is a concept which was borrowed, did a lot of research from Singapore, Canada particularly, and Malaysia. But for our HRMPEB to go global and to make CHRP be accepted, first it must be highly accepted in this country. One of the key steps which HRMPEB has undertaken to ensure that it has given CHRP a global touch is to first have it recognized by Kenya National Qualifications Authority, so that anybody from UK, any other country intending to undertake CHRP would be able to see that it is first recognized. So once that recognition is achieved, then it is very easy to sell it to other countries. We have done a lot of benchmarking, with foreign countries, like for example, Australian HR Institute. We want to introduce what we call recognition of prior learning. Recognition of prior learning is a new concept in Kenya. It is one pathway through which someone can be able to acquire certain qualifications without necessarily having gone to class. But looking at it from the other way around, it is a concept which can also be borrowed into the professions, not just HR, accountancy, and all that. If you have someone who has been practicing HR profession for so many years, based on experience, your level of skills can be assessed through that recognition of prior learning, where you can put forward all the portfolio, all the experiences you have, and are assessed, and you become a qualified or a certified HR professional. We benchmark with Australia. We are working very closely with KNQA, and before end of the year, we'll be rolling out that one pathway through which one can become a certified HR professional. So we are really doing a lot because that is one of our mandates, to grow CHRP locally and globally. And very soon we are also going to Rwanda. We are working very closely with some of the universities like MKU. They already have a branch in Rwanda and other countries, and we are partnering with them to take CHRP abroad. And we want to market CHRP across Africa and internationally, so that any other foreigner intending to undertake this program will not doubt it. One, it is already recognized by Kenya National Qualifications Authority, which is a step forward. And then now, after that, we'll be able to do a lot of branding and ensure that we partner and benchmark with as many universities, so not universities, professional examinations bodies as possible. We have the Society for Human Resource Management in the US, in the UK. We have so many other bodies in Australia, which I've mentioned, in Singapore, all these other bodies. So HR is growing very fast. In Kenya, we have taken a lead to ensure that we globalize HR profession. Thank you.
And please thank my panelists. I hope you'll love to hear from them another evening. In the interest of time, we have to end there. Thank you very much, Dr. Ogola, Dr. Nelson, Dr. Francis, and I have to give Kuresha a doctor in advance, and Dr. Kuresha. So please clap for my panel. Thank you very much. We may now leave the floor.
We have something to give Esther. Before Esther comes, we can say conversations with Esther. Conversation, I know tunataka kukula, lakini wacha tuseme tu conversations with Esther. Thank you, that is powerful. Esther, come, you give the gifts. Once you are given your gift, you can come. Thank you very much, Dr. Francis, for coming. Thank you very much. Thank you very much, Dr. Douglas Ogola. Good further. Much appreciate our panelists for that wonderful and very transformative. Yes.
I'm in love with your body. I'm in love with your body. Everything's covering something.
Madam Edie, sijui nisemeze kwa Kiswahili. Tunataka uinvite Esther Katiba so that she will also invite our keynote speaker. Thank you very much. I appreciate our Edie. Piga makofi ya kilo. Done. Makofi ya kilo val. We are going to eat, that one I'm sure. Good.
Thank you, Coach Richie, and thank you everyone for coming tonight. We've had conversations mixed, some for our own personal development, some for our own information, and we know from here where to go to, whether it's going to be members of the Institute of Directors, whether we're going to do our CHRP, and also come back to the Institute and renew your membership. It's all for a good cause. And I appreciate Esther Katiba for bringing this conversation to us. And I would like to welcome her to this stage so that she can tell us a few things and also invite the keynote speaker. But before I do that, at the Institute, one of my visions is to enhance members. I want to see each one of you fly on your own. You have an institute, that is your home, and we will give you the platform. The same way, each one of you is giving the institute the platform. Karibuni, my doors are always open. I was told by a renowned coach that there are some doors which are open, but nobody ever walks through. I can assure you my doors are open, and you can walk them through. Karibu Esther, thank you so much for having us tonight, and to many more. We need to be deliberate about these conversations.
Good evening, everybody.
Good evening, Esther.
How are you?
Very well.
Wow, it's not easy. But I first want to thank God for this day. And I want to be very intentional about that because conversations with Esther started in a very simple way, just a thought. And I actually saw, I don't know whether he's here, Edison. I saw, is Edison here? Eddie. He's a graphics guy behind this logo. So I told him, maybe you can cook something about conversations with Esther. Give me a logo. And he gave me something and I said, okay, then what next? Let's see what we can talk about, right? And it's been a journey. It's been a journey, but the speed is super fast. I must admit, things are moving so fast for me. I want to appreciate my husband. I made sure he is here. I am happily married. Just stand up and wave. That's a guy that I tell those, those dreams that you just say, there's something we need to start. And he's looking at me and thinking, are you okay? And I say, yes, this is the way we are going to move. From this place, this is how we go. And he's my advisor. So I love you, sweetie. Allow me to say that. Kuresha said that I made sure people didn't have their Valentine, but I brought mine. I brought mine purposely for backup. But this has been a journey as a HR professional. And I started as a HR assistant. I have a legal background, and so I am very keen on documents, I'm keen on how processes are, I'm keen on how people are treated, I'm keen on very many things. And as a HR assistant, I got to see so much, and I began asking myself, wow, is this what happens in the workspace? Moved into a HRM, moved into to consultancy for 10 years, moved back into employment as a GM HR. And all this time, I'm picking information, I'm picking a lot of experiences, because I think if HR professionals would be asked to talk here, you've picked so much, even for yourselves. You've experienced so much, and most people don't expect you to speak. Actually, you can speak for the rest, but not for yourself. So you've picked a lot, and eventually I moved into one of the best places that I worked that I know they're part of our partners, Linton's. To date, Linton's keeps saying, Esther, you need to be in all our events. And when I go to their events, they say that is our HR. And I remind them I left. They said, no, you never leave us. So that journey has opened my eyes to the fact that there are conversations that we need to have as HR professionals, and there are conversations that HR needs to have with the rest of the departments. Because we keep complaining that finance does not understand us. You know, we are coming for money and you don't give it to us. But there's something is missing. There's a conversation that you need to have with your top leadership. There's a conversation that you need to have with the rest of the departments in your organization. Because you can't keep fighting. And we keep, in the committee, I appreciate my committee, we keep saying, you know, this feeling of you're the most feared HR must stop. It must end, because you hold families. For me, that's how I look at it. You carry that employee and you carry a family behind that employee. So when you're having those conversations, think about people. I'm not saying you will not lay off people, you will not terminate people, but can we have a human face as HR as we separate with people? Can we give the best employee experience as we onboard people? You know, not just wooing me into an organization and thereafter I'm thinking, how did I get trapped? HR, you carry the organization in your hands. And one time one of my bosses said, do you know you're the most powerful person in this meeting? You can fire the chairman. You can fire the CEO. And I think we would need to wake up to that thought, that you have so much power as HR, of course not to be abused, because we have misused that power, unfortunately. But we need to be intentional about making organizations succeed. Now, we've been fighting about being strategic business partners. We also want to be in the boardroom. We want to, you see, it's the value that you add in an organization that matters. It's not your title. You see, sometimes we're obsessed with titles, head of HR, head of people culture, head of everything. But if you're in an organization as a HR and decisions that touch your department are being made without you, then you need to ask yourself a question. Because it looks like decisions are brought, like Jane, someone comes and says, we've decided to reduce the workforce. You were not involved. You were not even called into that meeting. So can we have those conversations? It's really not a complicated thing. And I love what I see here when I see Jane. Jane has her own company, right? And I saw Grace and many other people here that have their own organizations. We are not fighting. I want us to have that heart to sit together. I acknowledge James Ngomeli, who was asking about customer service and the rest. I went to speak in Women in Engineering event that he called me to, and that's how we met and networked, and that's how he is here as well. So can we come together We don't have time to fight, guys. There's no longer time to fight with Jane and say she's doing recruitment and I do recruitment. Can I ask Jane for advice? Can we have conversations around employment, around mental wellness? You know, someone made a joke and said, I think HR are the ones that need attention on mental wellness. No, honestly speaking, we also take in so much. My husband is a full-time pastor. So you can imagine a HR and a pastor in the same house. I have brought in 500 people in my head. He's brought in a church of 3,000 in his head. And we joke and say he has the biblical law and I have the Katiba. So we sit and decide which one. Of course, the Bible wins. But can we just have that candid conversation and make organizations succeed? You're in that company because you are needed. You're in that company because people work there. And I think it's Dr. Ogola that has said, it's because there are people there. What else? Who else would you be leading? What else would you be doing in that company if there were no people? Right? So please, let's continue with this conversation. I say 100 times that I am always guided by 3 values for me: integrity, excellence, and impact. If it has no integrity, I'm not part of it. If it is not done perfectly well, my team will tell you that I was here at 1 p.m. And I told Serena, you just have to bear with me. I need to see what's happening here. So you got to have that touch of excellence in what you do. And if that what you do does not have impact, then there's no need to do it. So thank you. As I welcome the keynote speaker, I met Dr. Nelson in church. And he was talking about integrity. And if there's anything, and I've met him a few other times, and I tell him, if I know you for anything, or if there needs to be another name for you, it needs to be a man of integrity. And those are the people that we walk with, and those are the people that you need to walk with. I called him some weeks, or I think a month or so back, and I said, could we meet? And I knew in my heart I was daring to call a chairman of very many boards, right? And he said, but of course. I said, wait, did I ask that we meet? Then he said, yeah, where do we meet? And he says, Java Galleria. And I said, okay, I know how it looks. And I'm thinking the chairman, CIC, CEO, CIC, and me in Java. So we met there and we had a conversation around partnership with IOD, actually. That was the main thing. And as he spoke, I had my notes. I was so ready to tell him what I was thinking. And then he speaks everything that I had written. And I said, Dr. Nelson, it seems I don't have anything else to tell you because it's like you read my script, but can we move on with conversations with Esther and partnership with IOD? And I said, I want us to also invite you to speak to us, because he spoke so passionately about strategy and culture. And I even forgot I had called for the meeting. I listened to him, he finished, I stared at him and I said, oh, okay, it's me who had called for the meeting. Because he told me, Esther, you know, people have values listed in the organization. And you all have yours, is it? You've even branded integrity, honesty. I mean, they just look like decors around the office. And he told me, Esther, it can take 1 full day of a conversation to discuss integrity, just one value. And he started talking about integrity, and I said, really? This is deep. He told me we can go through strategy. So we are having plans to also call you and talk to you about strategy. We want to talk to you about your core values in an organization, because HR, as we talk about culture, your culture is embedded in very many things, in your processes, in the stories around your people, in how you treat your people. I don't know whether some of you would want your employees to join this meeting and be given the microphone to ask a question about HR. So how we treat our people, how we run the business in the organization matters. So will it be too much to ask if I requested that we stand up and bring the keynote speaker, Dr. Nelson Kuria? Karibu sana.
Well, be seated, please. I am quite humbled to hear such glowing tribute about this gentleman. I don't believe he is still the one. And a very good evening once again. I know we are pressed for time, and I will not sit in between your dinner and what I have to say. So I will just paraphrase what I intended to say. One, because Mr. Ngomeli ignited a subject that is very critical, that is in vogue, that is the very heart of what you would consider as the heart of sustainability of businesses, what differentiates organizations that become great, what differentiates about people who become great because they are driven by values, because they are driven by doing what we call greater good, and that are purpose-driven. And I want to believe that is why we are here. And the reason that I found what Bwana Ngomeli raised as being very important is, it is said that values determine what becomes your culture. Because culture comes from values that determines our behaviors, our habits, our actions, and the way we make decisions. Values and culture shape our choices and the kind of decisions that we make. And that is why values through culture are said to be the ones that determine not only the destiny of individuals like ourselves, but also the destiny of nations, the destiny of organizations. So do not be surprised to see what you see. And in response to what Mr. Ngomeli raised, that in Kenya we are fixated with the issue of papers. But I just wanted to amplify the fact that what we are talking about today is not academic papers. We are talking about papers that help practitioners become better practitioners, because all those professions that are worth their salt, they all have a code of conduct and ethics. And those ethics and conducts are the ones that determine behavior, the ones that determine the values and determine the cultures that we have as organizations and even as individuals. And that is why there's a gentleman called Peter Drucker, the management guru, said that culture eats strategy for breakfast. The understanding here is that culture is the software, and strategy is the hardware. You can have as much hardware as you want, but without the appropriate softwares, that hardware becomes valueless because it can't function without. So you get suboptimal results. It is Warren Buffett, the famous American financier, who said, in looking to hire people, you look for 3 qualities. The first one is integrity. The second one is intelligence. And the third one is energy. And he said that if they do not have the first one, that is integrity, but they have intelligence and energy, they will kill you. They will kill you as a business. They will kill you as a nation. They will kill you as everything. So that goes to underscore the whole essence of values, the value of integrity. Because when you have the value of integrity, it leads you to the other values of excellence. You become customer-centric because you care about people. You move from the self to the others. And that is why the Bible talks about that those that will be elevated are the ones that serve. So, how to become great as an individual? You will become great through service and through the kind of values that you have. If you look at the organizations that excel, and organizations that are even sustainable in the longer term, if you look at the bedrock of their competitive advantage, it is actually values that build what we call strong cultures, and then, like Jim Collins and Paul has said in their book, Built to Last. The only things that build to last are based on culture, and culture that is based on the bedrock of values. So, ladies and gentlemen, if not for anything tonight, just realize that if you do not align strategy with culture, culture will eat your strategy for breakfast and lunch and even dinner. And that is why we are seeing nations like ourselves, very rich, a lot of arable land, human capital, very well educated, even exporting to even developed countries. But those good people, when they go out there, they do very well. But when they remain here, because of that culture that eats strategy for breakfast, it even eats our development. So is it any wonder to see the kind of quagmire that we are in? We are not poor because we don't have resources. We are poor because our culture eats our strategy for. So that's where it all begins. And I'm happy that you have now an institute. And that is what is actually catalyzing the rising of the profile of the HR practice. Before your institute, it would have been very, very, very difficult to get HR practice to where it is today. But today you have even HR directors. Earlier on, it would have been a crime to refer to a HR person as HR director because they were not seen to be able to occupy such kind of positions. But the evolution has taken place. And that's why I want to challenge us as HR practitioners that what becomes of our profession will be because of ourselves. It is not just going to be achieved from out there. It is for you people to rise up and get into all kinds of networks that are going to make a difference because of the kind of position that you hold. And if you are driven by passion of people, I always want to refer to what the Chinese wisdom says. The Chinese have a proverb that says, if you want 1 year prosperity, you grow grain. Grain is maize and wheat. If you want 10 years prosperity, you grow trees. And if you want 100 years of prosperity, you grow people. Grow you and others. That is what is at the heart of sustainability. The Chinese, even with all their hardware, even with all their machinery, they did not say train machines. They said train people, empower people. Because people are the ones who catalyze any other development. After all, we are talking about technology, we are talking about AI. Where did it come from? The human mind. The human mind still will go beyond AI because it will discover other things that are more powerful than AI. AI itself will not discover things. So in an organization, it's not an organization that creates value. It is the people who are in the organization who create. But you know, at times, we just keep on saying, you know, we are in this business, we create value. And it tends to imply like it is the organization. It is the people. And that's why people become central. But people, unlike machines, will have to operate within certain value systems that ultimately develop the culture of the organizations until it comes to the point, this is how we do things here. So if you come here and you are doing things contrary to what is our culture, we sideline you. That's why culture is strategy 4. And that's why it is important. So if not for anything else, I want to challenge us that let us start from building cultures by articulating our values, not hanging them at the reception and in our offices. We will hang them there, they will remain there until Jesus comes back. But we have to remove those values from where they are hung into our heads and our hearts. We internalize those values. We have discussions about values. When we talk about integrity in this company, what does integrity mean within our operations? I have been an insurer, and I know we are the most unpopular people, insurers, because we are said to be smooth talkers who can sell milk to a cow. And therefore, when you see an insurance person, you keep them at bay because you give them an inch, they will be like the proverbial camel and the Arab. The insurer will sell you a policy. The reason being that people do not understand our business. And as we did our values, I want to conclude. The reason that we transformed the CIC, I joined CIC in 1998 June. That time it was one of the smallest companies. Out of number 37, we were number 35. with a market share of less than 1%. By the time I left, after 17 years, CIC had climbed from that position, a premium of 180 million. By the time I left, end of 2014, we underwrote for 13.7 billion premium and had risen to position number 3. Our record for growth consistently was never broken within those years. How did we do that? People and culture. So when we talked about values, we asked ourselves, what does integrity mean in an insurance company? An insurance company sells you a policy, so it takes you through what we call a leap of faith. They give you your money today, you give them your money today, and you wait to be paid a claim either 20 years if it is life, or a motor accident if it ever, or if your factory ever burns. So you take a leap of faith. So what is it that would make us attractive as a people and not be seen like con men and con women? We went back to our values and we said, for us in insurance, in our organization, we said integrity means paying the claim hassle-free, just like you received the premium hassle-free. And that's how we coined our slogan of we keep our word. And I want to tell you, ladies and gentlemen, I'm very proud that I can say it without fear of contradiction, that we lived to our value and our slogan of we keep our word. And that energized everybody. It made everybody feel proud of the organization. We focused on people. By the time I was leaving, when I joined, only the MD himself and his finance manager had mortgages. Everybody else, no mortgage, not even car loans, because the company was underperforming. As a matter of fact, it was almost sold in October 1998. But move, using people. We did not get new people. I actually retooled the same people I found. And that's why I'm a strong believer in people. And I never condemn anybody before I try them out. Some people who are said to be poor performers in one function, I engaged with them because I engage with people myself. I do not stay in ivory towers. I circulate and talk to people. They would tell me, you know, I'm in this job, I didn't like it. So I discussed, then I would take, where do you think your comparative advantage lies? I tell you, some of the people who are on the verge of being retrenched became super performers. And I still left them in the company super performing. Because we grew the same people, we retooled the same people, and we had faith in the same people. By the time I left, we had 3 drivers. My own driver as a CEO, the driver of the chairman, and 1 pool driver. Each one of them was driving a very good car. Sio ile ya kufungua bonnet. Good car. Each one of them was living in their own house on mortgage, including all our messengers. So people don't even actually believe that our drivers are drivers. They think they are masquerading as drivers. How do drivers own maisonettes? I tell you, that's the way to empower people and do it equitably without discrimination. And that's why I want to end it this way. My basis of my leadership philosophy about people is biblical. I'm a born-again Christian. I serve as a leader in CITAM. And I say this, whenever I have this responsibility and privilege of becoming a leader. I'm a steward of people and their welfare, including the welfare of their families. They draw their daily bread from the organization where they are working, and from there they get their daily bread for themselves and their families, and are able to educate their families. So when you are playing about with your employee, know that they also have dependents, and the welfare of many depends on. So from that perspective, I say, everybody, including the mightiest of mightier, were all created in the image of God. And nobody has a bigger image than the other. From the MD to the messenger, they all carry the same image of God, their creator. Amen? That's where it begins. That's where my leadership philosophy is about people. And I know people will make the difference, particularly now. HR, you have an uphill task to raise your profile by becoming effective partners of your CEOs. Some CEOs may not understand the intricacies of what you are talking about here, about taking this action that becomes counterproductive, that it ends up in a contingent liability. But you are the gatekeepers. And gatekeepers also as champions of culture. Collectively, the leaders create culture. And that is why they say an organization is an elongated shadow of its leaders. And no organization can ever outperform its leaders. These leaders are the ceiling. So, if you have good leaders that are based on the values of integrity and honesty and accountability, and ones that value people because they are God's creation, and they know that the positions that they hold are a privilege and not a right. To become a CEO, it was not my right. There were other better people who could have even possibly made better CEOs. But I know God gave me that responsibility and privilege at such time like that. So he chose me. I did not choose him or myself. The Lord bless you as you elevate your HR practice to the next level. So like I said, you should now be at this level of CFO. When they talk about CFO, talking about financial matters and even getting, physical things, you talk about the soft things that make all the difference by being the most highly valued partner on the side of software. Thank you. The Lord bless you.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much. A standing ovation. Standing ovation. Standing ovation. Standing ovation, kabisa. Thank you very much. Thank you very much. Now, I am going to mention names. If I mention a name, unapiga makofi. Moja tu, don't do twice. Because hao ndio tunaita sponsors. Ndio sababu tumekaa hapa, ndio sababu tumekunywa maji, ndio sababu we are going to enjoy our dinner. So, if I mention a name, unapiga makofi moja ama you clap once, kofi moja. All right. Conversations with Esther. Piga makofi. We want to unveil. You know, the reason why I was moving close to our chief guest, is because I was feeling the enthusiasm. It's not because I wanted you to stop. It is because of the energy that was drawing me, the magnetism. You see, even me, I can speak like your English. Very good. Our guests, you can come in front. Lamek, be ready. Our online community, we are going to launch officially the YouTube channel for Conversations with Esther. We want to reach 500 people right now. Likes. Sawa sawa. Right now we are at 250. Karibu. Lamek, you ready? Good. Dr. Francis is a good friend of mine. Ameniambia, if you don't give me a chance for 30 seconds to talk about Daktari, don't talk to me.
Thank you very much. Can you hear me? You know, I was listening to Dr. Kuria here, and you might think that what he is talking about are theories. I think he left a legacy in CIC. My own personal experience with the CIC, my first-born daughter was born 14 years ago. And when she was born, I was approached by the salespeople from CIC. They convinced me to take an education policy. That was 14 years back. Now, this is what, I got this message in January when my daughter was joining Form 1. I want to read to you. Dear Kangure, your policy number that is now matured. Kindly send your ID, bank account, and the branch name to this number. When I sent it, within 2 days, I had the money, I took my daughter to school. I did not visit anybody. So I think what he is talking about is true. It's all about people and culture.
Thank you very much. Now I want everybody, each and everybody, every one of you, you go to your phone or to go to your bag and uchomoe simu. Inaitwa simu ama rununu. All right, toa rununu kwa mfuko. All right? My good friend Radida, I have not seen your phone. I'm very... Please go to Lamek. Ama ukuje utuambie where we are going. We want 500 likes and sharing. All right? Go to Conversations with Esther. You like, you subscribe, and if you leave a good comment, which will be liked, tutafungua server tu, you will get a very good present. Please, you have 30 seconds to share, to like, appreciate. Watu wa HR, watu wa appreciate.
Thank you, Coach Richie. As we do that, there is something that there is a reason why God brings me to a certain circle. And when I came to IHRM, and I looked around the market, the people who were making most of the money on our behalf were foreigners. while they were using me and you to deliver on results. And that's why I championed that we should be doing all these consultancies as Kenyans. And why am I having that conversation? CIC, with everything that was just shared and the confidence you've just heard about, it's a fully owned Kenyan insurance company. And that's where we start in supporting our own, and that shows you that things can work as owners of companies. With Kenyan identity, let's support our own, and let's buy that policy through CIC.
Thank you very much. You may now exit. Thank you very much. We appreciate you so much. Continue subscribing, continue liking as we welcome George to give. Oh. Okay. And the team coordinator has some very important things to say. Very, very good. A team of examiners. I can see my lecturer at CHRM thinking, oh, who are those, and I'm not there. Margaret. Pfizer, Abdi, you have been nominated, not been nominated. You are going to get a present for leaving the best comment. Please appreciate Pfizer, Abdi. Very good, very good, very good, very good. Si umeona Pfizer ungekaa kwa nyumba ungepata your present. Very good. George Simiyu, mpige makofi. Very well dressed. Tunasemanga dapper. He's dapper. He's a dapper man. Good. Come and give a vote of thanks, please.
All right. Thank you so much for this evening. Good evening, distinguished guests. Good evening, everyone. My name is George Simiyu. I'm an author, conference speaker, lecturer, and a certified human resource professional. We call ourselves CHRPK. Are we together? My professional registration number is 13820. Suppose you wanted to confirm, you can check that out. Thank you so much for this opportunity. You made this event to be so much grateful. As you all understand, that event is all about people, and today you've made it all to this place. Come on, somebody, just to begin with ourselves. Appreciate yourself for being in this place this evening and making this day to be the way it is today. As you all know that people always look for beautiful places, and there are those people who make places look beautiful. And this evening, you're the very people who have made this place to be so much beautiful. Once again, ladies and gentlemen, it is a great time to have you over in this place. And so, allow me just quickly, it was already mentioned, but just to appreciate our sponsors for this occasion. And wherever you are, kindly again, if you don't mind, just stand and wave to these beautiful people. Let them also know you. So we have the Career Route Solutions Limited. Anyone representing them from this place, kindly, oh my, just celebrate. A huge thanks to HRMPEP, we call them Human Resource Professional Examinations Board. Without them, actually, I could not be a CHRPK. Yes, wherever somebody is, kindly just wave to these people for them to see where you are. A huge thanks. They haven't seen you, kindly, if you don't mind. Just stand on your feet and wave to this crowd. We have quite a number of them. Then we have Human Resource, IHRM. They are quite a number. You see them. We thank you so much. We have the Institute of Directors. Amazing. Thank you so much for honoring us to be in this place. We have the Octagon Africa. Anyone representing Octagon? But we truly appreciate a big hand for them because they have made this day a successful day. We also have the Explode Media. Explode Media, somebody representing them, but oh, amazing. Thank you so much for that. We have the Linton's beauty world? Linton's beauty world? Anyone? But just a big hand for them for just making this event so much successful. We have the Danito Creations. Amazing. He's the guy behind all this good photography. We have the Paragon People Solutions Limited. Amazing. Thank you so much for being part of this dream. And then we also have Serena Hotels. We have quite a number of the staff also just representing the people of Serena. Please pass our regards to them and say we are so much grateful for them making this a success. And also you have seen, we've had a number panelists who just sat over this place and they did a good job. Was it a good job? Did you learn something? Allow me just pause for a minute and ask your neighbor, what did you learn from them? What did you learn? Magoma, what did you learn?
Values.
He learned values. That's amazing. Thank you so much. It's been a moment of learning. The time we started this session up to this time, it's been awesome, right? And also there is a great team that was involved in this whole occasion. As you all understand, ladies and gentlemen, teamwork makes dream what? Work. And we've had a beautiful, beautiful committee of people that were involved in all this. And ladies and gentlemen, Magoma being part of this team, and we have others, wherever you are, the team that is behind this occasion, wherever you are, kindly just stand and just wave so that these people can also just appreciate your effort. Ladies and gentlemen, these are the people that have made this a success. We truly, truly appreciate for making this very much possible. And as you know, we cannot go on and on speaking in this place. Time is not on our side. Ladies and gentlemen, we just want to thank you, everyone. But before I close it up, we also have the online viewers who've been following this occasion. From the time we started, we also acknowledge your comments, we acknowledge your presence, and as when we can't avoid. Thank you so much. Magoma.
Hey. The HR profession has got a lot of eloquent people. Wow. Very good. That was very good. We appreciate you as well.
And let me just say this. Perhaps if you wanted to know more about George Smith, just Google George Simiyu. And maybe you're looking for somebody to headhunt. Think about this guy.
Think about George. Thank you very much. My name is Richard J. Magoma, Mr. Positive Flavors, or the audacious one. Signing off as I invite Elvis to pray for us so that we can go and eat. Make sure you have your meal card. All right. What have I forgotten? And soup will be brought. Soup will be brought. But make sure you have a meal card so that you can be given food. Tumpigie makofi bwana Elvis.
Good evening. Yes, we cannot come to Serena and not eat, isn't it? Yes, so we are going to eat, but I want to thank you very much on behalf of Esther for coming. I am a pastor and I have never been to a forum like this where we have so many HRs. But as Jack Welch said, he said that an HR professional should be like a parent and a pastor. And so I don't want to talk about being a parent because some of you may be parents, but as a pastor, I know my work is to take care of the flock. My work is to seek out the lost flock, to love the flock, to protect the flock, and to guide the flock. And you should be like pastors. So when you go out there, when we go out through that door, go out and love those people. We are no policemen. We are to love the people. So many people who are sick come to church and they come to work. They come to us and they come to you. Love them. And then I would say, protect those people from a lot of injustice. And I would say guide them. The work of a leader is to maximize the potential of the people that they serve with. So let's go out there, look out at the people like what Dr. Nelson has just said here, maximize the potential of the people. Let us pray. Father God, we thank you and we bless your name. We have been here throughout this evening, just learning and conversing with each other. And we thank you because we've had a nice time. We thank you because we have learned many things in this place. Each of us has something to take back home. And I pray, oh God, in Jesus' name, that you will help us, help the HR professionals who are here in their careers, and every other person who is here. Help them, God, in their careers. Help them perform their duties excellently. And I pray that you help them to keep growing. We thank you, God. I know we're going to be going home. I pray that when time comes to go home, that you will watch over us and you will take us back safely. I also pray for the food that we're going to partake in this place. I pray, oh God, bless it and let it be of good use in our bodies. For this, I pray, trusting and believing in Jesus' name. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Elvis, for that wonderful communication to God. We are going to start with our guests. They are going to be the first people to go to the queue. Oh, the soup is going to come. Then after the soup, then we can go for the meal. All right? And now that we are going to eat, you're looking with me. Richard, you're wasting time. I want you to stand and say firmly, loudly, that I am empowered. No, while standing. No, you cannot be empowered while seated down. You have to stand. You have to stand and say you are empowered. Sema, I am empowered. I am enlightened. I love justice. I am courageous. I am trainable. May God bless me. May you enjoy your soup.
Congratulations. I have a message for you. God.
Welcome to Conversations with Esther. My name is Stephanie Ayata and I'm here to invite you to our safe space where we are talking about matters that affect us yet are not being talked about, and if they're being talked about, then they're not being talked about enough. Well, these are matters relating to work environment, and for that we have an expert, that is Esther, Lady Esther, and she's going to tell us her story, why this platform, who exactly is Esther. Esther, karibu.
Thank you. Thank you,
Glad to have you. It's a
Stephanie.
pleasure.
Thank you.
So we want to know, what is your story? Why are we here today?
I have a passion for leadership and leadership with excellence, not just leadership. I have a passion for people, and I believe in a conducive work environment. And it's a topic that most people don't talk about. They shy away from. People are fearful because of keeping their jobs. They won't talk about it. We're not here to attack anyone, but we're here to just make sure that every employee enjoys the workspace.
Okay, before we get into that now, we want to know about you, your personal side. So tell us about family.
Esther is a married person, happily married, with 2 children. Hadassah and Hesed, enjoying myself. I'm married to a pastor. I need to say this at this point, but I'm very vocal in the corporate space. It doesn't mean that if you're a pastor's wife, you don't operate in the corporate space. I am very vocal on employee issues and employer issues as well, not just employee. There's a balance between employee and employer issues. So that's me. That's me.
Okay, and you've mentioned something that you're a pastor's wife and you're in the corporate world. In this era, just being a career woman is a lot.
Yes.
Now I can imagine you being a career woman and also a pastor's wife. So how is that? Because you have so many things coming your way.
To be honest, Steph, I think you first need to know who you are. Because you need to understand what your passion is, what your mission is. When I became a pastor's wife, I think there was pressure, of course, to just be what people want you to be. But I think because I know who I am and I know what I'm going for, I think I have always said that every one of us has a pulpit, and I believe that my workspace as well is a pulpit.
Okay, that's
Yes.
amazing.
Yes.
So now let's get to your education. What have you studied? Because I know you have a lot again in this area. So what have you studied?
I did study law. I think if I start from there, I did a BA law at a university called Maharsh Dayanad University. Would be difficult for you to mention. So we
Kenya.
no, that is in India. So we call it a lot of MDU. The same university I did LLB. So that makes 5 good years of law. I came to Kenya School of Law, and I was sworn in as an advocate of the High Court of Kenya in 2003. Began working and transitioned from law into human resource. I've done a lot of things in between. I'm a student as it is, MBA, University of Nicosia, Cyprus. I am also doing CHRP, and I'm a member of HRM.
I mean, that is a lot. You're carrying so many hats. How have you been able to study law and transition to HR, and you're still a student at this time? With the world that we're in, there's so much people are going through. When you study one thing, you're just pursuing now the job area. So how have you been able to handle all that?
It's not easy. I must admit, it's not easy being a parent, being a wife.
Yeah.
Being a professional, and the church is still waiting for you. It's not easy, but you need to know what really matters to you, because I think you have to keep improving yourself. You have to keep growing yourself. If you want to be relevant, you have to keep growing yourself. So somehow I have, and I think I have one weakness, is to keep enrolling for things. I am still enrolling in things, and I keep pinching myself and saying, I think it's enough. And I find myself again,
going back to
I am now doing what is called Lean Six Sigma.
So what is that about?
Lean Six Sigma is about workspaces and excellence in the workplace. So it's just a lot that I keep enrolling for, but the grace is sufficient.
Wow, the grace is definitely sufficient for you.
Yes.
And why law and then HR? Are they related? Are you practicing both of them together?
I did work with a law firm, but my first job was of course I did, and I want to talk to someone that's thinking that maybe they're starting too low. I did promotional jobs. It's interesting that people never believe that. I did promotional jobs and I was in Sarit. We were selling some Visa cards there, moved from there and went into an admin HR junior job.
Okay.
Moved into HR manager, moved into head of HR, and now I am the head of people, culture and organization.
Wow.
So you move gradually.
You literally started from the bottom.
I did.
I mean, where else can someone start leads to that promotional job? So how have you seen yourself grow over the years to the rank that you are in currently?
I think it's inexperience and being patient. You got to be patient, and you got to grow yourself. because I think the corporate space is growing super fast.
Mm-hmm.
Those years when we did the degree was such a big thing. I don't think, and I'm sorry to say, I don't think it is such a big thing now, because almost everyone has it. So you present it and someone else presents it.
So do you need another competitive edge for you to make it?
You need to. I think for me, what put me ahead of most of the other people was the fact that I had the law in it. And most organizations would prefer to have someone, a HR practitioner with a legal background.
Okay.
Because then you see things from a legal perspective, you protect the organization. When I look at a document and I look at a contract, I look at any lease document, I look at any legal document, I look at it from the eyes of a legal person, and I will see a loophole in a document. I will see a loophole in a contract. I will see a loophole in any engagement that you have. Actually see loopholes in conversations. Or even the way you exit employees. I will see a loophole and quickly seal it and make sure that my employer or the organization is safe.
Okay.
So in that way, then you have an added advantage over the rest. But basically, HR, to me, is law. Is law. And HR carries a lot of things. It carries legal, it carries counseling in it. As it is now, in the space we are in, human resource carries even counseling, because we have a lot of employee issues in the workplace.